Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? How you feeling? Just gonna tell people we're up here, we're talking, we're chilling out. I hope everyone's doing good. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just letting people know we're on here. This was not planned. I just kind of did this on a whim. So who knows how many people are gonna show up. Kind of felt a little stir crazy today. I actually felt like going out for drinks, doing that socially distant socializing, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm good because I think that surge is coming. I think that surge is coming, man. I think it might have already started. Does anyone know? Has the second wave started? I know it hit Europe and all those places, and I think New York's next. They started doing 25% capacity. I guess to calm people down, let people experience a little bit of normalcy. I think people want to experience normalcy, so there's that. But I think it's a bad scene. Let me just tell the Twitter family we're up here. Whew, so what is up? What is up? How is everyone doing? Let me see who's up in here so far, if anyone. Oh wow, 62 people. Yeah. Oh, how you doing, Michael? How you feeling? Where's my red wine, Gabriella? Hey, how you doing, Gabriella? Hey, let's see. Oh, I forgot the game's about to come on. I'm drinking seltzer, man. I'm not drinking wine today. Hey, Gigi, what's up? Oh, I'm glad to hear it, Michael. Hey, Champagne Communista, how's it going? Yeah, South BK is surging. Yeah, and Clinton Hill, where I live, supposedly is one of the highest places. Like, I think any place where people have a lot of cafes and want to chill out are going to be feeling it the most. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's always appreciated, of course. Lithium 19, how you feeling? Yeah, Lithium 19 knows what time it is. Hey, Reggie from Boston, how's it feeling? How's it going? Salam, Atticus Henry, I Sound Info. Oh, the whole family's up in here. Yeah, Williamsburg is supposed to be pretty bad too. Williamsburg's supposed to be pretty bad too. Um, yeah, you know what I saw today, man? This is something I was like, wow. I've said this before, and Afro pessimism believes this a lot, and I had come to this conclusion independently of reading Afro pessimism. But when I read Afro pessimism, it was like, wow, this is putting into words exactly what I already thought, and that's uh, today California. Today California had this happen, right? And I was talking about what I thought were the limitations of reparations, and this was the what I was saying was that I think reparations is a good thing and it's something very necessary, but I think what's going to happen in reparations, one of the problems with it is because of how anti-blackness is and what I call Bobwat realism, which is that people can't imagine a world where blacks aren't on the bottom and whites aren't on the top. That as reparations becomes more and more, as reparations becomes more and more feasible, you're going to see more and more other people being slotted in to get reparations too, with the idea being we have to re-elevate everybody so that black people still end up on the bottom. That's my feeling. That's my feeling on how it's going to go. So the first time around when reparations was being talked about everywhere, suddenly you had all this stuff about articles about gay reparations and everything. Like, as people get more and more comfortable with the idea of reparations, what's going to happen is, because black people always have to be in the bottom and have like the least claim to anything, suddenly whatever switch in their brain is going to have to be turned to allow them to realize that black people have a valid claim on reparations. What they're going to start doing is start thinking, well, if they have a claim, then any reparations is possible. Like any then it's realistic for anybody. It's very hard for non-black people to think of black people having a unique claim to anything. That's why so much of our politics that we're told is always lift all boats policies. It's just very rare you see a politician really come out with a specific black policy anymore. It's always got to be some everybody policy, and then they try to tell you, well, it's going to disproportionately help black people. But it's very hard for them to imagine unique claims for black people, if you notice. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. They're going to try to give everyone under the sun possible reparations, just to make sure that the hierarchy gets preserved. So today, with Governor Gavin Newsom's signature, California became the first state government in the country on Wednesday to adopt a law to study and develop proposals for potential reparations to descendants of enslaved people and those impacted by slavery. That's a huge step. California is the first, and all you need is one place to make it believable or reasonable or actionable, and that kind of makes it easy for others to follow suit. And once I saw that, I kept seeing tweets like this pop up around it that are like fake supportive, but look what they say. So somebody put, we need national reparations to blacks, Latinos, indigenous, etc. for wrongs done. And then the follow-up tweet, we also need reparations to Asians who have been mistreated in the USA. Let's not forget mistreatment of Latinos in the USA. So this person's adding all this stuff, and it's like, this person responded, which I thought was a great response. After black people do all the hard work of busting in the door, here come all the other groups who water down and muddy the water. That's why immigration doesn't benefit black Americans. And regardless of what you feel on that person's take on immigration, I do agree with the idea that there's something that happens where people can be can have the opportunity to have been talking about something all along, and they won't be talking about it. They'll be spending all the time on some bootstrap stuff, on some model minority stuff or whatever, or maybe even being anti-black themselves. But once black people push for something and get it, suddenly it's the whole we're all in this together thing. But it was just so tacky how it said reparations for blacks, and the person just put on the first response, and it happens a lot, is what about everybody? What about the Native Americans? What about this? What about that? What about that? And I think it's a reflex. It's a Bob Watt reflex. Blacks on bottom, whites on top. I think people get an existential angst. They're like, if I'm not better than black people, what am I? What black people and white people form the polarity. If the world was a magnet, they kind of form the polarity that everyone else kind of orients themselves around, like the North Star and the South Star or whatever. And I think people would lose all sense of direction and self-definition if black people aren't on the bottom. Like, they're fine with everyone else moving around, but also I think if white people aren't on top, they get, like, I'll give a great example. Um, if you look at Killmonger in Black Panther, right? I think it really kind of shows the subconscious nefariousness of this frame. This so we put it like this. Um with Actually, I'm gonna back it up even more. I wanna show this thing right here. So reparations. Hold on, where is it? Someone said reparations for those picked on in high school. Yeah, they're gonna open the door for everything. The last time this was gaining ground, people started putting up gay reparations articles. There was a gay reparation article that hit the ground. And see, and my thing isn't about whether or not any of these people um are owed their own reparations. It's the timing. Why do you never fight for this on your own? Why is it only when you feel black people are going to gain some ground, you can piggyback on black people, that's when this suddenly becomes very, very pressing, but I'm gonna get back to the whole yeah, black votes are rising almost to my level. Quick, better claim that someone called my grand. Yeah, it's this is gonna come. If it hasn't come already, there's gonna be a female reparations. I think I saw someone actually made an article about that. I definitely saw the indigenous one. Elizabeth Warren came out and said that one. I saw the gay reparations articles that came out the first time around. Not this. I got a feeling all this stuff is going to come back around with this California thing. Yeah, incel reparations. This will be a thing. Yeah. It's very. But the thing is, how people don't even understand how insulting it is. That's how natural it is. And I think black people are going to be doing it too. Like you're going to see a lot of black people who aren't American are going to be infighting a lot. There's going to be a lot of diaspora war stuff over this as well. But yeah, I'm going to revisit a video that I showed last night, right? So this video I showed last night, but it was the usual mess. We talked about it last night, and it's only like 18 minutes if you want to look at last night's video. I'm not going to rehash it. But first, can y'all hear the sound?
Reciprocation. Black women fight for y'all day in and day out.
Do y'all hear the sound, or do I have to change something? Let me know. I don't think there's sound. If there is, I don't hear it. Do you hear it? Yeah, there's no sound. Hold on.
Women fight for y'all day in and day out. Where is the reciprocation?
I don't understand why she get on this app and complain about the same thing. Because y'all act like y'all don't understand. She says it in a way that's digestible. But I, however, am not. Black men, you are not as special as your traumas have tricked you into believing. You're weak. It's pathetic. The colorism that we have to deal with in the community, the colorism that you reinforce, it's disgusting. Oh, by the way, newsflash, white women don't like you. You are simply a means for reproduction. You are a product. You're meat. That's it. You're a breeder. You hold no value in this society. You're a man, and that's probably all you have going for you. Also, your legacy is not going to be transferred to a male child with your last name. You are financially incompetent. You are a deadbeat. Your legacy is to not become a hashtag by 25 and a face and a photo collage. That's your legacy. That's what you need to worry about. Cut the bullshit.
Yeah, so I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, if you go on social media for like 5 minutes these days, you get something like that. It's not anything new. But when everybody was going in on that, it turned out that the guy was really thirsty for white men and had all this stuff for Chris Evans, and how he would let Chris Evans do all the homophobia he wanted to him. If Chris Evans was God himself, and Chris Evans was talking about how he hates the colors and how gay people had to die, he would be like, I'm joining the Klan. So it was like, okay, all this accountability talk, but you also do videos about how you're totally fine with white men's homophobia, and you'll just fall in line and It's fine with their racism. They can treat you however they want. So it kind of shows it's not really about justice or accountability. You know, you just have a double standard. And what somebody asked me about in response to that video, somebody, yeah, if people bring up Ed Buck, yeah, I mean, it's true. If you Google his name, Ed Buck, I'm sure he doesn't mention Ed Buck at all. But somebody asked me this question. They were like, I don't understand why these people act like the black community exists separate and not under the control of the white community. Like there's no place a black man can go and his word be the law. So why do they act like black men have this separate community of power, the black community, where they can actively oppress, like pass laws, get special treatment in the justice system to get off for, you know, doing crimes to black women or gay people, or unilaterally create like colorism, like, you know, this idea that, you know, in the days of the early slave trade or imperialism, these white guys were coming on boats and they was like, man, look at these beautiful dark people. Oh, look at these gorgeous dark-skinned women. And then these guys in huts, you know, with spears are like, oh, you don't want none of them, man. Those dark bitches, you know, wearing like them light here. You know, like as if somehow this is created independently. Like white people, that's what these people say a lot too, that white people have been learning this bad stuff from black men. So I think they think, you know, maybe they think black men, when they hit the shores of West Africa, volunteer the slavery thing to them. They're like, you know, it's a great idea taking us as slaves, you know. And the white guys were like, oh, we don't know about all that. That seems kind of wrong. And like, no, we like it. It's good. And also, let me tell you something. The darker these bitches and this natural hair, we hate this natural hair. We didn't even see straight hair yet, but we knew we liked it before he even came. You know, like I mean, that's kind of like the way they talk, basically. The way that they be talking. So I mean, in them like Ice on Info said I'm doing stand-up, but what else could it be? Like what other reality can these people be thinking? Like it sounds comical, but I mean, it does sound like comedy, because what else can they be possibly thinking? Like they have to be thinking that if they don't hold white people accountable for anything, especially white men. Yeah, we'll talk King Face. I wasn't planning to, but we can talk about him. Yeah, I mean, one of the worst Haitian L's in a while, but it happens. Hey, I thought you were out. I thought you were out of town.
I just got back.
Oh, nice. Look at that. Vita hits the ground running. She just jumps right on in streams. That's awesome. Yeah. I was talking about the whole that guy with the video and stuff. But what I was saying, you came in at a good time. I was saying that a lot of people they act like they're against a principle, but they're really against black people exercising that principle. Like a lot of people, I think, are comfortable with the white oppressor. It's a black oppressor that scares them. Like, you know, they buy into black people should be in the bottom and white people on top, the same way non-black people do. And I was gonna tie it into Killmonger, like all those blue checks when they were talking about it. There were all these blue checks making articles about how Killmonger. First off, it was weird that people in the Washington Post and New York Times are writing about Killmonger like he's a real person in a real top newspaper, but that's what they hire these people to do at these publications. You know, like
they hire people to make. They make Killmonger a what?
Oh, let me show you. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an actual tangible example of what I'm talking about.
Let me turn off my air conditioner. Hold on, because I can't hear. All right.
Yeah, it's better to show an actual example. So,
oh, I'm glad that the picture is now champagne. No, it's not champagne sharks. Never mind.
No. I don't know how to change that. One time Mario put his picture up there and it just stayed. Yeah. So there were a lot of articles like this, and she even accompanied the video. It says, "Forget Killmonger. Wakanda's women are Black Panther's true revolutionaries." And And this blue check, Karen Atiyah, she wrote this whole thing about how Killmonger was an example of how like black women have so much of fear from black men. And she was talking about him like he was real life. That was the weird thing. And she was kind of making a case as to why he's not a revolutionary and white people don't like him. He's one of the bad blacks. And
What?
yeah, it was a real. Maybe I can read it
First of
real.
all, like to me, that's not even a critique. The critique for me was why was this character written this way? Like he was some sort of soulless being because he wanted a real revolution versus this made up one where we give white people access to our resources.
Yeah, and they were, but first that was just a weird article to have in the Washington Post from like
Washington Post.
Global,
okay, that's even crazier.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's one thing with something like the Mary Sue, one of those cheesy blogs, but these people get kind of hired to just be glorified bloggers, you know. But I mean, I can read it real fast. Most of the intellectually interesting and heated discussions about Black Panther have been about whether the film's representations of Black liberation, internationalism, and imperialism are empowering or regressive. This specific strain of Black Panther debate has been hit by a Category 4 flood of man takes from men, with mostly male critics responding to each other about Black Panther and what it means for all Black people. For a number of my commentator brethren, the film's treatment of the Wakanda American villain Killmonger is highly problematic. She links to some of her friends who also have anti-Killmonger articles. And then she goes, his thuggish ways and death in the end implicitly symbolize that Black liberation is neither desirable nor possible. Writing for the blog Africa is a Country, Russell Rickford says Killmonger is a revolutionary, but that, quote, as a political device, however, he plays a much larger role, for his character exists to discredit racial internationalism.
But did it say radical or racial? I couldn't see it.
Radical internationalism. But this male-centered debate has missed the forest for Wakanda's two big man trees, T'Challa and Killmonger. It fails to see that the collective power of Wakanda's women offer the real vision of what Black radical internationalism could look like. As a Black woman and the daughter of West African immigrants, I hate when anything has an "asa" in it. The most tragic and scary part about Killmonger and his imperialist vision is that he does not hesitate to sacrifice Black women in pursuit of it.
Okay, let's stop.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stop. His imperialistic pursuit, is that what it said?
Yes, his imperialistic pursuit.
Well, which is super crazy to me.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
If we take the story as it is and we look at the reality of life as it is, where is his vision to be imperialistic when the whole thing he's saying is we have to protect our resources and protect our people against the people who have enslaved our other people and have colonized our other people? Like, I'm just so confused on how
their favorite
this imperialistic versus, like, because to me it's like you're siding with the white supremacist perspective on this.
Oh yeah,
that's what it says clearly. Because how is the retaliation to imperialism?
And but that's kind of what she tries to say. She tries, not specifically her. She might have said it in this article, but I've read a lot of these articles, so I kind of blend them all into one giant article. But the big justification a lot of these people used was they said he had a line that said, "The sun will never set on Wakanda," and then there was an old line in the British Empire, in the Victorian Empire, where they said the sun will never set on the British Empire. So they used that kind of flimsy thing to say, oh, so based on that line, he just wants to create a Black version of...
No, it was a play on the actual statement. It wasn't supposed to be saying and even if that were the case, it sounds like they would agree with Terry Crews when he talked about this fear of Black supremacy. That's what they sound like right now.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take devil's advocate even farther. Let's say that they were right. Let's say they were right that he was he was just doing white supremacy in blackface, or he was doing white imperialism or white hegemony in blackface. Let's say he was right. In the movie, they're perfectly fine with white supremacy and white hegemony in whiteface. The first person they let in is a white CIA agent, the one who trained Killmonger to begin with. So like, if you think about the logic of these people, that Killmonger has to die and can't be allowed because he was trained by the CIA and killed all these brown faces. That's one of the excuses. But the actual person who trained him and he was working for deserves nuance and could be worked with. You know, like, it makes no sense. Killmonger shouldn't be allowed because he believes in the same type of thinking as the white oppressors. But the movie ends with Black Panther willing to appear in front of the UN, in front of all the white world powers, and offer him his technology. So
exactly.
Your problem isn't the principle of of supremacy. Your problem is with a black being subservient to a black person. These people don't want to be under a black person. That's what it is. Because if it was really the principle, they would have been equally against the white people and the black people. And that's what I think a lot of these blue checks think like. They don't mind being under a white man, but they don't want to be under any other black person.
Yeah.
Is that your music? I hear like music.
No, and it sucks because it's my neighbor, and I'm supposed to actually be recording for Afrogen in a few, like 15, 20 minutes, but I don't think I can record. So you guys know how I tell you I record in my brother's office because it's quiet.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking.
Oh, you got one of those type neighbors. I had one of those.
Well, neighborhood. I live in South Central. Like, I don't think people understand what that means. This is the culture. They're playing music for us.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Oh man, I hate that because it's even worse when it's not a neighbor, because you can't just knock on someone's next door and tell them to calm down.
I can't even tell you which neighbor it is.
Got it.
It's one of them.
Oh yeah, but this is exactly it. They don't want to be under the lesser folks. Yeah, and that's what like black people.
I love that point.
Yeah. Like, I see some black people all the time. Like, they will go to like a white place that doesn't want them, that is like being racist against them, and they'll protest about how this place should let them in, or they'll put up with like, there was this thing where this bar wasn't letting black people in Texas, and people were protesting and going to the news, and what they wanted was this bar to start letting black people in. I'm like, why are you fighting to give these people your money when they blatantly said they don't want you? Like, at least fight to shut the place down, you know? But with black-owned businesses, people will have zero tolerance. They will write a bad Yelp review in a heartbeat, I noticed, or they will put a black business on blast like instantly. I think that's that same mindset where they're fine living under white supremacy in the Black Panther movie, but the minute Killmonger is showing a black guy, you might have to be under a black guy. That's too much. No, we don't want that. We're fine kissing a white person's ass, but you know.
And I think it's the point also of the lesser blacks. It's the black people that they think are beneath them.
Yeah, that too.
Black people that they think are less educated, black people that they think are less sophisticated. So you know how I tell you guys I'm obsessed with watching old TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
And I like the old white ones because they really give you insight into, how white people have been conditioned to see themselves. And I was watching Little House on the Prairie today at work, and in the episode, this particular character named Mrs. Olsen, she's like real snobby. She's from the merchant class, meaning that she's one of the business people of the community, and she looks down on the farmers and shit of the community. And one of the things that she kept saying was how, it's a huge responsibility to be this person in your community because you set the standard of class and culture for the community. And in the way she was talking about it, like this was a real job. And I thought it was interesting because I watch a lot of my mother likes to watch British period pieces, and I watch sometimes with her. And it's the same mentality. The aristocracy had the same mentality of, it's our job to be representative of the class and culture of this community. We're the educated ones. Everybody else is supposed to, basically fall in line.
Yeah, fall
in line. And we don't even realize it, but a lot of our own personal traditions that we have that we think have to do with some sort of gender role shit have actually come out of British aristocracy. It has nothing to do with, gender or sex norms in reality, right? But I'm saying all that to say this. A lot of what we see in the Black elite spaces and these Black people who don't want to be around the quote unquote lesser Blacks, they mimic that sort of idea. They really believe that they're the pillars of the Black community, and it's their responsibility to set the tone and the culture and the class of this. Bill Cosby's entire message was basically that. He even married someone who's a part of the Black elite. I think his wife Camille is part of the Lynx.
Yeah. Things like that a lot too. He tries to cultivate like this kind of rebellious image, but Spike Lee very much believes in that. His wife is of that class too, and he was considered too low class for his wife, and Martha's Vineyard and stuff. He married into that class as well, and total same mindset. This is a good example. It's like when a Black person gets bad service and tries to flex by dropping a big tip.
I hate that.
Yeah, and this is a good one too. I don't know who said it, but the civil rights movement was only Black forcing white people to take their money. But Black people will fight to make a white person take their money or get in a space. I mean, even the show Lovecraft Country is a fictional version of that. Like, this famous white guy didn't put Black people in his books, and he was racist. We're gonna make our own version. We're gonna force ourselves into a Lovecraft story. Like, why not just say fuck Lovecraft? Make your own thing. Like why do you have? Yeah,
because I think we still have this mentality that white stuff is somehow the ideal and the epitome. It's like I still can't figure out why we force our kids to learn Shakespeare.
That's a great point.
And I always ask that question, and Black people will fight you tooth and nail about why Shakespeare is so important. But it's like, well, how will they know this? And how will they? I said, well, we've only made it important. They've told you this was the greatest writer ever of all time. I think Bo Johnson's making some really great points. I think the point he's making also in the chat, he says, but Vita, they don't control, meaning the Black elite. They don't control culture. However, people they consider lesser Black are controlling the culture. Absolutely. In fact, they get stolen from. A lot of the styles and trends that we see, we've seen kids in the hood do most of that shit before it even got popular.
And a lot of the Black bourgeoisie also tries to cosplay as the people in the hood because they know that their actual culture themselves is just watered down white people, basically. They know that there'll always be counterfeit or lesser white people. Like
they can be tokenized. But see, then you can be a tokenized Black. So what happens is, this is honestly a lot of this I learned from when I was nanny. I nannied a Black girl who was raised, and she, pretty wealthy family, wealthy upbringing, and how things transitioned for her when she just from changing schools, grew up going to white schools, in her middle school year, and in high school she went to Black schools. Completely, you see this complete shift in all of that, right? What's interesting is when she was around the white kids, she was cool to some of the white kids because she was Black. She never been to South Central. She didn't know nothing about the hood. But to them, she was basically a hood chick. Just because she was Black. So for her,
some people play into that.
Well, this is the thing. She didn't actually. She didn't like it. She was a kid. She was a little kid. So she's trying to conform and fit in. Then she gets around the Black girls. And it's when she went to a different school, mostly because she was getting the issues with this white school she was at before. She goes to this Black school. It actually, her whole mentality and how she sees herself starts to shift because she starts to see, okay, you're not cool just because you're Black. At first they called her a little white girl because she was talking like the white girls she went to school with. And she was a tennis player on top of that, right? Yeah. And then when she went to the Black school, a few things worked. Like certain things, maybe they talked about her being white, but she learned how to love her hair because the first thing them Black girls did was play in her hair, braided it up, all kinds of shit. You know, before that, she didn't know shit about her hair. She just put her hair in a little ratty bun and go to school. But my point is just that when you don't have that proximity to these to black people and black people who actually come from the hood, I think it's interesting how you think just you being black is enough to say I'm in proximity to blackness. That's why they write those stupid ass articles like comparing presidential candidates to like alcohol and Hennessy bottle, whatever that.
Yeah, all that dumb stuff. Because they look at black culture the same way white people do. They just look at it as much of as a collection of tropes. But I mean, like, I think the girl in your example, she got to be around the black environment and change. But I think some people start off like the girl in your example, where like, hey, I don't want to just be relegated to like hood girl just because I'm black. I'm in the same space as you. I'm from the same space as you. Why are you treating me different? Why can't I be the same as you? I think some of those people, they hit a wall where they're like, you know what? If this is how you see me, then I'm going to weaponize that. I'm going to use that to get my foot in the door. So I think they start embracing it after a while. They start like I feel like a lot of Issa Rae stuff has a lot to do with that. Like when she raps in the mirror and stuff, which when we were talking about the show, I was like, I'm glad she's kind of backed up a little bit off a lot of the I think fake hood stuff that she was doing. Like she used to do videos like Ratchet Peace Theater, where she would break down something ratchet for white people on YouTube before she got big. And I feel like a lot of
I never saw that. I'm so glad I didn't see that because that would have made me not like her.
Yeah, she used to do a lot of stuff. You know what's interesting? I talked about it once, and then it disappeared from the internet. And I swear somehow she got a hold that people like found it. It disappeared the next week after I
she hit up Lawrence and had him scrub it off the internet.
Yeah, but maybe it's still like on Vimeo or something. But it's Ratchet Peace Theater.
Joke. That was a joke from Insecure. Remember?
What was that?
The teenage kids have uploaded that video, or they found the video of her. Some video of her rapping. I think was it Broken Pussy or something like that?
Yeah.
Some she was doing, and then Lawrence had it scrubbed off the internet. But you didn't get the joke. But
nah, I forgot. I tried to pull the early seasons out of my mind because I didn't like them that much. Even the later ones, that last one we watched, I thought was actually
that makes sense. I'm actually gonna have to go because I gotta see if I can try to record with this background noise. If I can't record, I want to just come back and bother you guys with the terrible background noise.
What are you recording before you go? I'm just curious.
For Afrogen, so me, along with Nina and Kay from Resistance Noir, we have a podcast we started, just Black women talking Black women shit, but it's like,
oh, nice.
But it's not like other Black women space where they shit on Black men. It's not. In fact, we don't even really center men at all. But we definitely talk about uplifting our Black boys and our Black community. So I thought it'd be dope to have a Black female podcast that wasn't on that bullshit.
Is it out yet? Is it out yet?
So yeah, we just dropped the second episode yesterday. We started the first episode on Friday. It's on Spotify right now. I think we're trying to get everything cleared for like Apple Podcasts and all that. But it's on SoundCloud. It's available on the Resistance Noir website. So yeah, it's pretty dope. It's been really fun. It's so, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love you, and Kenny and Mario. But sometimes you gotta talk to women. Like,
yeah, I understand, man. I understand. Perfectly fine.
Sometimes you gotta talk to women. It's called Afrogen Revolt. So Afrogen, AFROGYN, which basically means Black woman, right? Afrogen Revolt. And it's I produced the opening theme song. So if you guys like it, please let me know. And I'll follow us also on Twitter at Afrogen Revolt, AFROGYN Revolt. Okay?
Nice.
Let me go see if I can record that. If not, I'm going to come back and bug you guys.
All right, we'll probably be here.
All right,
be good. Yeah, man. Someone said the opening is great. So you've already heard it, Void? I haven't heard it yet. Man, everyone knows about this before me. I didn't even know about this yet. I did not know. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. But she's got that podcast bug. When you get that bug, you start appearing on everything. When I started podcasting, I got burnt out, man. I got that bug. I was just appearing on anyone, everywhere. But to bring it all back, I'm gonna tie everything together right now, right? That whole blacks on bottom, whites on top thing, I think animates all of it. Like the reparations thing, and black people even do it to themselves, where as soon as black people get reparations, other black people will even be like, well, what about these people, or what about indigenous people? I've seen like black people do that, but non-black people do it. Like this kind of thing where we naturally have to, life only makes sense to us. We're like yardsticks and things to measure yourself. You push yourself off of black and you aspire to white, and people define their whole essence to it. It's an existential threat to have either black people not on the bottom or white people on the top. And I'll tell you something else. I even think not a lot of non-black people, they don't even want to be on top. They just don't want to be like, I think a lot of these striver races and a lot of these people trying to win the game, they really just want to be second best. They don't want the quote unquote responsibility or the target on their back, or they've internalized that kind of inferiority complex to white people. A lot of people are just complaining or worried about being second best, but I think for a lot of people it doesn't even occur to them to overtake white people. I think at best they just want to get close enough that white people notice them and give them model minority status, and give them a pat on the head, or let them into their homes, or let them marry their daughters and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give another example. With John Leguizamo and the Emmys, where John Leguizamo boycotted the Emmys for lack of the article says Latinx, but I'm not going to say that. Latino representation. I feel like Latinx is like the Blavity BuzzFeed Black of Hispanic people. None of my Hispanic friends say that Latinx thing. Yeah, I feel like when you see a Latino say Latinx, you know he's gonna be the Latino version of a Blavity. But let me find the exact thing that he said. He might have deleted it by now, but maybe he didn't. Yeah, here it goes. You just say Latinx. That's how they pronounce it. It's a weird thing, but black people have been fighting for this Oscar so black thing. I wish that thing's a waste of time anyway, but there's diversity and whatever. So suddenly this article happened. Emmy 2020, black nominees gain ground. Latino representation still abysmal. So first, that's written by a Latino person, Michael Ordonez, right? And so he writes this article, and I'm like, I searched Michael Ordonez's name, and I have not seen Michael Ordonez ever talk about pushing for Latino representation and Emmys and Oscars. So I'm like, why did this Michael Ordonez person only start writing why did it only get a bug up their butt about this when it's time when black people get something? That is very annoying to me. But then John Leguizamo wrote, why can't we Latinx have a piece of the pie? We are the largest ethnic group in America and missing as if we didn't exist. And it's like, you have the same internet the rest of us have. You could have been talking about this 24 hours a day if you wanted to. Like, nothing is stopping you. And then Dasha Polanco from Orange is the New Black, she threw her 2 cents into it, and she was like, if it's only us speaking on it, no one cares. It's a silence from those that fight for equality, but only their equality. She's talking about black people. She's saying she somehow found a way not to blame white people who aren't in the right to give any of us awards. Somehow it's the fight of black people who only fight for themselves, but only their equality. So she goes, if it's only us speaking on it, no one cares. It's a silence from those that fight for equality, but only their equality. Diversity, but diverse enough to include thyself. That mentality of, as long as I'm good, I don't see a damn thing. And it's like, this happens all the time where people give themselves credit for like helping and caping for black people and acting like black people only care about themselves. And it's like, y'all don't even fight for your own representation. You're gonna try to tell us that you're fighting for everyone else's and black people aren't reciprocal. If anything, black people are always saying black and brown, black and brown, black and brown. We're always trying to carry people along with us for the ride, who in hopes that they'll see our humanity, you know. Yeah, so I was really shocked by that. I mean, like, they themselves, there was a Afro Latino who was nominated for When They See Us, that Dominican cat who played one of Central Park 5, and all these Latinos act like he doesn't exist. Why is that? Because he's not the kind of Latino that they're talking about, you know. Yeah, so whenever like Afro Latinos win, they still act like those are invisible. So there's something racialized about what they were saying. But I was really kind of taken aback by this idea of people fight for their equality, but only their equality. And it's like, we're just expected to be mules all the time. It's very crazy. And a lot of people were asking her, like, where is this fighting that you're doing for black people, you know, that you're talking about, or even for Latino people? Like, when do you ever fight for, like, have you ever at any point fought for Latino Emmys? You know, like, why is it so people pulled up her hashtag and they pulled up from Dasha Polenko, Black Lives Matter, no results. Ferguson, no results. Corinne Gaines, no results. They went through all. Tamir Rice, she has never said like anything. And but in a weird way, I think people kind of believe it. I think people kind of actually convince themselves that they're doing something for black people. I remember when Proposition 8 happened and in California and the gay marriage thing, a lot of white gays were like, you know, we're always doing stuff for black people, and you know, we finally asked you for something and you don't reciprocate. And I was like, where the hell is that coming from? Because if anything, it's the black, gay, and trans people who've always been doing a disproportionate amount of the movement work in gay spaces. And I started like going online and asking people, like, you know, just wondering, like, what are you talking about? And almost all of them, when pressed to it, like, you know, I'm like, have you ever like what do you do? The best they can come up with was we voted for Obama. And it's like, oh my god. I don't know, because a lot of these people only consider themselves Afro Latino when it's time to win an argument. You know, like no other time. Like Gina Rodriguez is Afro Latino when it's time to win an argument, and then you see her actual dad and her family, and it's like, you know, what the hell? Yeah, but I mean, I'm not trying to pick on. Oh, this is deep. My family's black and Mexican. The only way my brother used to get into the quinceañeras was his friends would tell their parents he's Mexican and leave out the black. Yeah, I could believe it. I could believe it. And I don't want to act like I'm just picking on Latinos here. I think everyone thinks they do stuff for black people, and black people owe them. Like, they make up things in their head that they've done. It's very weird. This is so true. I met a dude when I was out getting drinks, and the guy told me like he was Cuban, and I was like, and the guy looked black. I'm like, but you know, Cuba has a lot of African people, so I was like, oh, he must be one of those Afro-Cubans. I talked to him about it, and he discovered a Cuban grandmother the year before, and T skipped this. No, I can speak a little Spanish. Puedo hablar un poco español, pero no mucho. Pero si tiene hablar un poco español, puedo hablar español contigo. I can speak a little Spanish. I'm not good at that word. That one word, I just don't know. There was. Oh no, I know what the word means. It's just CEA, Quinceañera. I just don't know how to pronounce that sequence of letters. But this guy really thought he was Afro. This guy really thought he was. This guy really thought he was Cuban somehow. It was really funny. But going back to the original dude. Quinceañera. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I don't know. That word always like screws me up. The CEA together is like weird to me. But what I was gonna say is that guy who was talking about black men, the colorism, the one I put at the top of the video, black men, the colorism, and you're gonna be hashtagging this, that. And then when it was time to talk about Chris Evans, he was quiet as a church mouse. That's the same thing as Black Panther, where Killmonger's got to go because he's absorbed the oppressor's ethos, but the actual oppressor who started the ethos, you're all negotiating with them, and you're all bringing gifts to the table, and the movie ends with saying we're gonna open our doors to the world, and it's like, why weren't y'all trying to negotiate with Killmonger like that? Yeah, it's like Quinceañera. Everyone's trying to tell me how to pronounce Quinceañera. But it's funny, man. It's funny. But that's how people think when if you're some black people fight. I'm gonna give another example. I've said this on the show before, but hold on. I wasn't planning to talk about it, but I just remembered it, and it's such a good example. There was this restaurant that got into a whole bunch of trouble. It's called Bagatelle, and Bagatelle is like this trendy brunch type of restaurant in Greenwich Village, and people were fighting to go to this restaurant and just be treated like shit. Like people were dying to go to it, and they would just basically mistreat the black people, and the black people would put up with it. And the stuff, what really struck me about all of it was the stuff that they were putting up with, they would not put up with from a black-owned restaurant. No way, no how. No way you're gonna tell me that they would put up with this. Like yeah, so these people were eating this brunch and they're wearing their Sunday best. Yeah, they dressed so nicely. Like, they really want to show out and be with the movers and shakers. And they got one girl seated between two people. Actually, they have 4 girls on 3 chairs, and the guys are over packed too. Yeah, and when I saw that, they would not have put up with that from and I feel like the same thing with Killmonger, and not just Killmonger, but the blue chunks who thought the movie had a good message and who were saying stuff like they were saying all this stuff, and I just kept asking them like, okay, if that's true, why was it okay from the white person? Like, okay, Killmonger was preaching the same tactics as the oppressor, and I was like, so why was it okay coming from the actual white oppressor? Like, oh, he was in the CIA and he was a traitor because he was killing black and brown people for the CIA. He's no liberator. I'm like, but he was working for the white guy that they accepted help from, who was like their big friend and whatever. So if it was a deal breaker for Killmonger, why was it okay from them? And the truth of the matter is, the problem isn't about they're against oppression or imperialism. They just want a white oppressor. They just want a white imperialist. That's all it is. And it's like, be real about it. The brand not even real with themselves. They don't even actually realize, like, they're so used to being okay with a white oppressor that they actually don't even see it, because it's the oxygen that they live in. They're used to it. Someone on the outside has to actually maybe point it out to them. But what you claim you hate about the movie is not even what you hate about the movie, but the hypocrisy is so obvious that you would think from the first minute they published the article, everyone would call it out. But those articles were able to go on and on for like weeks and months, and no one saw the obvious hypocrisy. And it's because most black people and white people and everything in between who read those articles believe the same thing. Black on the bottom, white on top is so natural and so ingrained in society that it's a blind spot for all of us, whether it was them writing the article or whether it was the people reading the article. Like, that simple hypocrisy. And I stumped a lot of people with that. I was like, I would let them talk all the reasons why Killmonger was bad. Then I'd be like, in that case, why is the white CIA and why is the UN and why are the actual oppressors okay? And they just try to make different arguments, like, oh, because Killmonger killed a couple of black women. And it's like, well, first off, he was written to do that. Like they didn't have to have him do that. Like, but that wasn't what you were saying before. You're just trying to throw something else in there to kind of justify your double standard. But that's just something you're saying. It's not. But yeah, I mean, that ties into why the Emmys, everyone's fine not getting Emmys, but the minute a black person gets an Emmy, suddenly everyone has to be reevaluated, and now everyone else needs their Emmys to make sure. Or the same with that guy showed in the beginning. I'm gonna show you that guy's. I'm gonna show you that guy's video, because it was pretty. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, he after all the talk about homophobia, colorism, racism. I played this last night, but I'll play it again. Here's how he started talking. They pulled up this old thing from him. He wasn't expecting this to be found, I guess, or he didn't see the. But this is what the same guy said.
You gonna have to call me a Christian that day. Like, imagine this. And
this is the day that Chris Evans' nudes leaked, and he posted this.
Here's one of the photos that, first of all, I'm not going to even ask what guard that. Why is that even in his phone in the first place? But baby, now we got America's ass and dick. Can you imagine if God looked like Chris Evans? You gonna have to call me a Christian that day. Like, imagine this. Let's just say that if the Bible said being gay is a sin, I'm proudly preaching homophobia. I mean, the gays aren't really my favorite creation, but whatever. So God said he hates gays and he hopes you all burn in hell. Not my words, just God's. I'm looking at Captain America a whole lot different. Know a colored's place and stand up for that pledge, boy. Sir, yes, sir. And here's...
So basically he said, like, Chris Evans was God and said that gayness is a sin, he'd fall right in line. I'm right there with you. If he said, Chris Evans said that hey, you colors need to know your place and kneel for the flag and accept inferiority, he would be saluting right up front. So it's like, okay, I thought you didn't like homophobia. I thought you didn't like all that stuff. And the first thing is like, oh, whenever you point this out, they all come and say, oh, it's just jokes, and it's like you never make that joke with straight black men, like ever. And that's the same thing, like the double standard of Killmonger versus the double standard of Killmonger versus the white CIA guy or the UN and all this stuff. Like, a lot of people internalize that blacks on bottom, whites on top thing. It's really, but the scary thing is a lot of black people normalize it. A lot of black people think that they don't deserve to be treated any better. It's not just something that you can just put on non-black people and how they look at us. A lot of us look at ourselves the same way. Same thing with the Lovecraft Country. Like all these people talking about, and someone said reclaim, but it's not reclaim because it was never yours. You're trying to claim it. You're trying to insert yourself. Even reclaim is a lie because that kind of acts like it was one time yours and it was taken away from you. That's how bad you want to be included. You've actually convinced yourself that it was meant for you in the beginning, and someone like you convince yourself you're coming home to a place that you never were, right? But you will never see these people struggle. These are the words they use for Lovecraft, as if they even grew up with Lovecraft. They never grew up with Lovecraft. This is what happened to them. They realized that a lot of their white friends and white peers like Lovecraft. So they look at Lovecraft and realize they're not in it. And they're like, there's something important to white people and we're left out of it. And all we want to do is be invited to the reindeer games. We want to feel as quote unquote normal as so these people, they hate when they read a superhero story and realize that they can't fantasize about themselves in the story, that, you know, because they read and watch everything for like narcissistic supply. They can't just enjoy like the artistic. If you ever see them like break down or criticize or analyze art, they can't ever just talk about the themes, the plot, the acting, whatever. All they can do is just count heads, count private parts, count skin color, and count sexuality, and then tally up how validated they feel by the art at the end, right? So this is something that's culturally important. Whether it's Shakespeare, they want to know like, let's see a black Shakespeare. Great Expectations. Can we have a race bent Great Expectations? Can we have that? Like they want to force white people to include them into their stories, you know? This is exactly what I'm saying. Well, first, this on the screen, you never see this kind of think pieces from 007 movie and Lord of the Rings. Those things are full of weird imperialistic messages, especially, you know, but Killmonger's got to go. But I agree with this. They don't have any deep connection to Lovecraft in their youth. They just encountered them one night on Wikipedia, or maybe a bunch of their like white friends were talking about it. They didn't know what the white friends were talking about, so they wanted to know. So they looked it up on Wikipedia and they realized, oh man, look at this important thing, and you know, I'm not involved in any of it. I can't watch it, and I can't project myself in it, because that's kind of how they evaluate all art. If it makes them feel good about themselves or validates their life or whatever. But you will never see them like so some of these things that they talked about struggle with Lovecraft, grapple with his legacy. But it's like, if you're talking about Elijah Muhammad or someone else who's kind of like problematic, you know, Eldridge Cleaver or whatever, it's just a total unnuanced, throw out the baby with the bathwater, misogynistic, homophobic, hateful. Louis Farrakhan, you know, they even try to kind of cancel Malcolm X a couple of times, and I'm like, it's their right to not like Malcolm X or Louis Farrakhan or Leonard Jeffries or, you know, anyone else that they think is problematic or a hotep or whatever. But I just hate to watch them when it's some white person that they have no actual connection to, who actively hated them. They're writing all these think pieces about grappling with the person or struggling with their legacy, and how they have to have a whole show to kind of rewrite this person's legacy. Because first off, here's the hypocrisy behind it, right? If this guy is a racist and you're using his name to sell your show, you're trying to get fans of his show to watch you. You're trying to get attention for your black ass using this racist name. And you're making the racism part of the appeal, you know, as in this guy was a racist and his stories were racist, and we're going to try to fix his story. So what you're basically doing is you're making money off of racism. You're getting attention off of racism. You're marketing yourself off of racism, off of white man's racism. You're piggybacking on it. Like, where are principles? Why don't you just have the principle to just not use this man's work or invent something? Say, hey, fuck Lovecraft. This is, I mean, even this is too reactionary to me. I'd rather just create black science fiction or black horror, you know, but just be like, let's do something better than Lovecraft ever imagined. But don't name a show after. At the end of the day, you're still naming the show after him. You're naming the show after this person, and you're using that racist name to bring attention to yourselves. You know, like, that's just weird to me. Yeah. The Octavia Spencer produced Green Book. I've never read Octavia Spencer, so I really don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, this is also like Obama. Obama's like this. Obama would go overboard to show how he wasn't giving black people special treatment, you know. Yeah, so not liking Malcolm, but going easy on Lovecraft is a variation on that theme. Yeah, so I mean, anyway, I think that all ties into the whole blacks on bottom, whites on top thing. I think all ties into all of it. It explains everything. It explains the Emmy Awards. It explains and why Latinos only get mad when black people start winning. It explains why that guy has nothing but jokes about if Chris Evans was. Because first off, what's even crazier about that? First off, I'm just saying this. I don't even think that guy even likes Chris Evans that much. I think he's just trying to signal and be one of the cool kids. That's just what that crowd does. They just go overboard to signal to white people and each other, this is how we feel about you. Like, I'm sure he doesn't care about Chris Evans that much. It's just the cool thing, the cool kids table thing to do, right? Where Chris Evans' nudes leaked, right? Chris Evans, as far as I know, has never said anything about anti-blackness or homophobia or whatever. So why even bring that in there? Like, I can understand if Chris Evans was on record being problematic, and then his nudes leaked, and say you liked his nudes, right? I mean, I still think it's a tacky thing to say, but at least it's contextually relevant. But Chris Evans is always trying to be woke. He's always trying to be like a Democrat, anti-Trump, anti-bigotry, milquetoast politics. So why even reach there and go into all that? Like for you to performatively do that is so ridiculous and over the top. Like if a black guy is doing nothing but breathing, you find a way to say like he inhaled homophobically. You know, you'll find something and then say how you can't forgive him for it. But a white guy doing the most benign thing, what makes you project this weird hate monger thing about him just to proclaim loudly and performatively and so for everyone to hear how you forgive it? It's very, very forced. And I find that very interesting. It's not contextually relevant at all. Yeah, I believe it. I totally believe it. You know. Yeah, but yeah, I just find that funny that it wasn't even related to anything. Like when I first saw it, I even started wondering, like, did Chris Evans say something? Like why does he need people to know that he would be okay with Chris Evans saying all that stuff about him? And then again, you see it with Killmonger, like all the people talk about how unforgivable Killmonger's imperialism or buying into white supremacy was, but how cool they were with actual white supremacists. Because at the end of the day, those people, they may not wear Klan robes, but they were white supremacists. They were the CIA, they were the G7 countries and all that stuff. Yeah, it's yeah, but even if the dude's audience is a specific type of black woman, then that doesn't really answer the question. That just raises the next question: why do all those black women think the way he does? You know, it's still. And yeah, this is a great word. Comprador is a great word. Shout out to France Fanon. Yeah, I call them cookout blacks. They always want to show how eager they are to invite white people to the cookout, but they can't wait to kick black people out of it though. Yeah, but blacks on bottom, whites on top. I'm telling you, just that's the superstructure of the world. That's the schema. I don't know how many of y'all know what a schema is, but it's a very good word or concept. Let me see. I'm gonna find a video about what a schema is. There's a video that explains it very well. Okay, I found it. This guy has a very heavy Scottish accent, so I hope you guys can understand him. One of the guys has a Scottish accent, but Mr. Biden is a pedo. I'll go with it. I don't care. Some of those poses he does with those little girls does seem really weird. Like I don't know if that guy's a troll or what, but I'll allow it. Biden's got some pedo ways. Tell me if you hear the sound for this. Tell me if you hear the sound for this. Let's see. Someone said they want to invite white folks to the cookout, but can't play dominoes or spade. Y'all are funny as hell. Y'all are funny. Let me look at some of these comments before I move on, because y'all make some funny comments. Is this Spanish? I don't know. I don't know what that is. He's talking about blocking somebody. I don't know. He's asking if I blocked him. Oh, who knows? Anyway, look at this.
Most of the factors that predict whether or not something that is being perceived will also be remembered operate in the first few seconds of learning. One of these factors involves something termed a schema and whether or not the new learning bumps into one. Let me show you an example of a schema by having Dr. Whitehead and myself read a paragraph to you, one actually taken from a famous research paper. Your job is to remember as many facts about the paragraph as you can. Let me tell you in advance that you are going to fail miserably at this task unless I do something first. I can instantly improve your memory score from between 50 to 100% simply by adding 7 little words before you hear Dr. Whitehead and myself. But I'm not going to do that. You will hear the paragraph first, then I will read you the words.
The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do.
If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that...
Wait, someone said I have to turn it up. Is it too low? Let me know if it was too low, and then I'll start it over. Oh, it was too low. Okay, let me start it over. And it's about 2 minutes long, but I want y'all to have some patience with this because it ties into something I'm trying to say, and also be patient with the guy's Scottish accent. But listen to what they're saying, and let me know if the volume is better this time.
Most of the factors that predict whether or not something that is being perceived will also be remembered operate in the first few seconds of learning. One of these factors involves something termed a schema and whether or not the new learning bumps into one. Let me show you an example of a schema by having Dr. Whitehead and myself read a paragraph to you, one actually taken from a famous research paper. Your job is to remember as many facts about the paragraph as you can. Let me tell you in advance that you are going to fail miserably at this task unless I do something first. I can instantly improve your memory score from between 50 to 100% simply by adding 7 little words before you hear Dr. Whitehead and myself. But I'm not going to do that. You will hear the paragraph first, then I will read you the words.
The procedure is actually quite simple. First, you arrange things into different groups. Of course, one pile may be sufficient depending on how much there is to do.
If you have to go somewhere else due to lack of facilities, that is the next step. Otherwise, you are pretty well set. It is important not to overdo things. That is, it is better to do too few things at once than too many.
In the short run, this might not seem important, but complications can easily arise. A mistake can be expensive as well.
After the procedure is completed, one arranges the materials into different groups again. Then they can be put into their appropriate places.
Eventually, they'll be used once more in the whole cycle or have to be reheated. However, that is a part of life.
Did you get all that? No? Let us give you now the 7 magic little words. This paragraph is all about washing clothes. What that sentence provides for you is a mental framework, a way of organizing thoughts around some aspect of the world. We call such frameworks schemas, and you have them about people, situations, objects. This means something profound. Prior knowledge can disturbingly shape how you memorize and retain for long-term storage future knowledge. If a schema is triggered near the moment of learning, that learning is more permanent.
Brainus!
So I don't know if y'all were able to follow that, but they give you all this information, and it's way too much information to actually process. Maybe try to memorize it, or figure out stuff like that. It's really hard. But when he tells you the sentence is about laundry, your preconceptions, like laundry is a schema. When you know it's about laundry, you can process the sentence, the whole paragraph, really easy. It totally adds, it superimposes a superstructure and instant context to all that information. And we have a whole bunch of schemas that we walk around the world with because there's just too much information in the world and the brain is too small to process it all. And yeah, that's true. Hacking schemas is where a lot of logical fallacies come from. And someone said heuristics. Yeah, like conning people, like con men basically. Our brains use a whole bunch of shortcuts and tricks and leaps that allow us to process a lot of information disproportionate to the amount of actual horsepower our brains actually have, which is not much. And schemas are one of those things, but they're also something that makes us vulnerable to being conned or whatever. And blacks on bottom, whites on top is one of those schemas. Like blacks on bottom, whites on top is a schema the same way laundry was in that thing. Like if you took away that schema, the world would become as incomprehensible to people in a lot of ways as that paragraph was to the listener before they added that sentence. Yeah. People talking about French in the chat room. I should know French better than I know Spanish, but French is like really hard, and I grew up with French. No conozco muchas palabras en español, pero si habla conmigo muy despacio, puedo hablar contigo. Like Spanish is to me like really easy. Like everything, all the letters are pronounced. What the word looks like is what it is. French has like 12 letters, and only 3 of them are pronounced, and the other 12 are like silent. All the conjugations. French is like really hard. Like I still struggle with French, and I grew up with it. But yeah, I like that video. I really think like black on bottom, whites on top. That's the schema of the world, and Afro-pessimism touches on that a lot. But what else in the news? Joe Biden. I'm gonna talk about Joe Biden, man. A lot of people are beating up on Joe Biden, but I thought he did okay. I think it was lowered expectations. I thought that dude was gonna like forget his pants. I thought they were going to walk him off the stage. I thought he'd be facing the wrong way, and the cameras would come on, and they have to like turn around. You know. That's that French 101. Je suis le jeune fille. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't think he did great, but I mean, he didn't he didn't get Jeb Bushed. Like he didn't get Jeb Bushed. He didn't get Hillary Clinton. Like he wasn't made to just look like clueless nerd. Like I'll give him that. And he didn't try to like go too heavy on policy. He called him a clown, told him to shut up. Like I think you gotta like push back and be like a bully. So people were really hard on him, but he could have been worse. I think he could have been worse. Yeah, I was wondering if Tron is actually a young woman, or if he or she was just using like basic French and just saying whatever. Yeah, Biden is more likable than Hillary. I gotta admit, Jim Crow Joe. You know, I think he might have done Adderall. Like I really think he might have done Adderall. Something to super focus him, because he wasn't great. He was flubbing words. He was mixing up stats, but compared to what we've seen him doing during COVID, it was way better than what we've seen him do. Like what do y'all think? Oh, also, is everyone doing likes? Hey, Justin F, what's going on? Yeah. Also, if you're enjoying the stream, hit the super chat. You know, we're trying to get Vita a ring light. Hit that super chat. Yeah. Adderall is no joke. People use that thing to study, to focus. Like, yeah, I really think he was on some performance enhancing drugs. Like, some people are saying that as a joke, but I'm dead ass. I dead ass think he was on some performance enhancing drugs or something. Yeah, he was on something. Is this the book that ties in Alzheimer's to carbs and calls Alzheimer's a form of diabetes? There's this book I heard of as the provocative thesis that Alzheimer's should be called type 3 diabetes. I was wondering if it was that. Oh, I didn't know this. This is interesting. Someone said Champagne Sharks has turned into Biden PED truthers. Hey, what's going on, Pensiev of Dorf? Someone said he was ready to write a 20-page single space. Yeah, that dude was geeked. He was geeked, I think. Oh, here we go. Hey, what's going on? We're being Biden truthers. We're talking about if Biden was on any narcotic last night, over the counter, or prescription.
I think he's always on something.
He was way more coherent and wired than I thought. He was very.
I don't think he was that much different than he always was.
He seemed more coherent than usual. I mean,
maybe
2020 Biden at least. I saw a clip of 2016 Biden giving a speech, and I forgot how much better he was just a few years ago. Hey, Tron6, how's it going?
Thank you, Tron.
I was telling them they have to donate to make sure you get a ring light. We want to get you a shiny ring light.
A shiny ring light? What's wrong with my light?
I mean, the ring light is like cloud. I'm telling you, people in the chat have seen me pre and post ring light. It makes
you know what? I actually have a ring light. It's just cheap.
Oh, see, there you go. Help you to get a professional influencer ring light.
Well, I mean, let me see. If I change the setting.
Oh, that's nice.
That looks horrible, no? It looks blue.
It looks very neon. It looks like
yeah, you're right. No, I'm good. I'm like I saw a clip of Beyonce once. She's like, y'all gotta stop putting blue lights on black girls. We don't look good under blue lights. Nah, she talked country as hell.
Yeah.
We don't look right under blue lights.
So her voice is like really deep, man. I remember when I first saw Beyonce, I was like, man, she is fine. And I heard her talk, yeah, Jay. I was like, oh.
Oh no, you
voice is heavy.
Yeah,
that voice is
sultry voice. It's just country.
I don't know. I remember her voice being deep, but I saw that movie. You saw that movie she was in with the stalker with Idris Elba?
I didn't actually watch it, but I've seen parts of it.
Oh, you got to watch her talk for a whole movie.
I'm good. She can't act for shit.
Her acting is horrible.
Acting. You know what? I love Beyonce. One thing I can say is that she works really, really hard to improve the things she sucks at. But some reason, acting just never. She got better as a dancer. Thank you, Gabriella. But she got better as a dancer. She even got better as a singer. But her acting just never. It's like she just couldn't do it.
She might not act enough. I think she kind of gave up because she only did. She did Carmen. She did Carmen, and she did that stalker movie. But I don't feel like she's done a lot. Dream Girls.
No, she did a bunch of shit. The Fighting Temptations, Cadillac Records.
You're right.
70s movie. Austin Powers.
Oh yeah. She did more than that.
She did a bunch of shit. She just can't act. That's just not her talent.
I agree.
Episode of The Smart Guy.
Oh, I agree here.
She did best.
Was okay. Yeah, it wasn't great.
But But to be fair, they had to work. You could tell they had to work with her.
Yeah.
Everybody else was killing her. What's his name? Eddie Murphy killed her. Jennifer Hudson killed her. I mean, she didn't do the worst.
She by far was not the most memorable part of Dreamgirls
not
at
even
all.
A little bit.
Your timing is good because I finished what I was going to talk about. Like I don't even have much else to say. So you can have the floor if you want. Whatever's on your mind, I'm just tossing you the ball.
Oh, just tossing it over to me. All right.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to wrap up. So you guys have Vita to thank for extending it.
I'm trying to figure out what were you guys talking about that I missed because I don't want to just be like saying some random shit. I've also been smoking, so no telling what the fuck will fly out my mouth right now.
We were talking about what were we talking about? We were talking about languages for a while. We were talking about I don't know how that happened. We were talking about languages. What else were we talking about, y'all? Thanks, Hansi. How's it going? We're talking also about blacks on bottom, whites on top, and how people can't really process the world. Like we were talking about how a lot of non-black people, they actually don't want to be number one. They just want to be number two, and they're fine with that. They're fine with white people over them. It's black people passing them by. That's a deal breaker. Hey, Rock the Mic, thanks for the donation.
Thank you, Rock the Mic. You know, it's funny. Oh yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about right before I left. So
yeah,
you know what's interesting? I used to have a really big chip on my shoulder with bougie Negroes, right? I mean, really big. I hated them.
Yeah,
I didn't know white people growing up, so at least not a lot, right? So I didn't have any issue around my blackness, because everybody around me was black, but I did, because I grew up really poor. I really had an issue with black, and also, I'm not even gonna lie, not just black families that have money, but black families where there was two parents. Like, if you had your mom and your dad, I was a hater. I was like, fuck you and your shit. But a lot of my issues around people who were the bougie Negroes, and people who consider themselves to be like black elite or extensions of it, you know, the Jack and Jill Negroes, a lot of the problems I had with them had a lot to do with how I felt like they felt like by putting down other black people, that was going to bring them closer to whiteness. But at the same time, allegedly not really fucking with white people. So it's like they put on this big front of, and historically you'll see this, right? A lot of times, a lot of black elite funded a lot of shit.
Oh yeah.
Know? So it wasn't like not all black elite was just like let me kick it with white folk. A lot of them didn't like white people at all. Yeah. But they didn't like your black ass either. Again.
Have you ever read the book Our Kind of People?
Yes. By Lawrence Otis Graham or some shit like that.
That book is very good with that, because it talks about how they were kind of pro-black, but they were so classist that they were kind of anti-black at the same time. That book is very honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's really dope about that book? I read it in college. I took a class called Social Inequality. Yeah. And I gave the book to my mother to read, and she hated it. Not because she didn't think it was true. She felt she could sense the writer's own issues still. He was still battling his own elitism. And then now I didn't really pick up on it as well as she did, because when you're in school, you kind of read it the way that they want you for school. But then later I saw a clip of that author basically talking about how he and his wife make sure his kids are safe by they making sure they dress a certain way, that they're wearing tie, his son's wearing a tie, that they don't behave a certain way. And then his son is still ended up getting harassed by the police later, and he had to put all that shit back. And it was
and he was very shocked. Like, he thought he was above.
Right.
So in fact, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Before we move on, I just wanted to elaborate on what you're talking about. Right here. I taught my black kids that their elite upbringing would protect them from discrimination. I was wrong. I'm like, in 2015, someone had to teach you that. You know
what? But in a couple years before that, he had a whole video with his respectability politics, and I think that's what made that so like interesting. Was like that was your nigga. It took you that long, like you just said, to get that nigga wake up call when you saw that your son still wasn't protected. But I don't see how you skipped over all of that in your own life. Like, because at what point did you not see this? I feel like you had to have seen it and just dismissed it or ignored it in order to, continue to do whatever it was that you were doing. But I think what bothers me is the fronting like they're for Black progress when they're not for Black progress. What they're really about is still maintaining this idea, this Eurocentric idea of how communities should be run. And this idea that, like I was saying before, the elite should be the pillars of the community, and we set the standard for what everyone else should want to be like. We don't even know why we do things that we do in our regular culture. We don't even realize it comes from this elite perspective of what, separated you from quote unquote savages.
But they're a perfect example of blacks on bottom, whites on top, because they don't really want to combine with black people and be number one. The most will talk about is equality, but they won't talk about in fact, they do what Terry Crews did. We know Terry Crews was complaining about black supremacy, even though I've never heard him talk about white supremacy before he did the black supremacy quote.
Not one time.
Yeah,
and it actually exists.
Yeah, and you're right. That actually exists. A hypothetical black supremacy is more worth speaking out about than actual white supremacy.
We are only like 13% of the fucking population.
Exactly. This is not
what the fuck are we even talking about? We got less money than everybody else except for the Native Americans. It ain't but 4 of them left. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Why would you as a black person be more afraid of black supremacy than white supremacy? But they're more afraid of black people than white people, I think. That has to be it. That's the only reason.
It's conditioning, yeah.
I think a lot of these people feel they would be safer around white people than black people. Because if you see how they talk about the hood or the black community, they just make it seem like it's just mad. Mario says they make the black community to sound like Fury Road, like with the cars and the flames and the people. Yeah. So I think they think they can get a nice seat at the table on white supremacy, but black supremacy, all the hood dudes and the hood rats and everyone's gonna be just victimizing them, I think, or something. I don't know. Or maybe they won't have any white people to impress, but maybe they're worried Chris Evans won't be around for them to have sex with. I don't know.
I think they really bought into the idea that we were all sold as black people, which is funny because I don't think other races are sold this shit. I think they see it on TV and they look at it as a TV show and they move the fuck on with their lives, which is this idea of this racial harmonious utopia. And they think life is going to be like a Coca-Cola commercial. And I don't think that's realistic. I have no other group it seems to me, to have this issue but black people. They all watch the same TV shows and the same TV commercials, and yet somehow they have had zero problem understanding the importance of understanding that that they were born on a team and they will die on that team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they have that. I don't think anybody else has that concept. But we have this belief that, like, I'll give you a perfect example. When I've talked about how many black revolutionaries and scholars and economists of the 1950s and 60s were against desegregation, a lot of black people don't believe me. Because they know that's like a whole nother concept. Which is crazy because people that they wear t-shirts of all the goddamn time, like Malcolm X, were very vocally against desegregation. But when you talk about that, in their mind, they hear, well, what about my white friends? I have some family members I have some white family members. Does that mean I can't be with them? First of all, that's not even what that means, right? But in their mind, they have this fear that, does that mean I can't interact with white people if we decide that we're going to be more nationalistic? That's not at all what that means. You don't stop going to the Jewish deli. You still go to the Jewish deli. I still want to go to give me some Korean barbecue. I still might go to Koreatown.
I think sorry, go on.
No, I'm just saying. So this idea of uniting within yourself economically, seeing yourself on that team is not a bad thing. But we've been sold this idea that everything has to be in this sort of Coca-Cola commercial utopia, and that's not how things work. And it doesn't have to work that way in order for you to get along with people.
I think something that happens too is that people associate the black stuff with the janky part of life, but it doesn't have to be that way. To like if you're worried that segregation is going to lead to your life having to be janky, your big concern should be, what can we do to make the wealth gap go away, to make white supremacy go away? So, because first off, I don't agree that being all black has to be janky, but I'm saying, devil's advocate, even if it was true, why would your solution be to just accept that the only way you're ever gonna have nice things is integration, rather than get mad and try to demand that things get equal? But that's another form of whites on top, blacks on bottom. It's just normal to them, It's just a normal way to think.
45 Lies says segregation was to keep whites at the top. And you know what's interesting about that statement?
Yeah.
Desegregation was to keep whites at the top. He literally listen to my point on this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna give you a much bigger perspective on this. Yeah. So I'm not saying desegregation in every single way and aspect was harmful, because there are actually some legal things that did become beneficial for black people. So I'm not even saying that. But what I am saying is this. It's no accident that the Democratic Party jumped onto the desegregation bandwagon and started funding it, right? So that's not an accident. The desegregation movement, and I actually heard Al Sharpton and some other black leaders of the time talk about this. The original movement around desegregation was not around desegregating private spaces. It was literally about public spaces that they were already paying taxes for.
Yeah.
So public pools, public parks, the street cars that you're already paying taxes for, all those types of things, what the original movements were about. And this is not just in the 1900s, even in the late 1800s, there were some of these fights. Marilyn Pleasant actually won in San Francisco when she got thrown off a streetcar, right, for being black. So that's what we know. So the movement was about spaces that people were already paying taxes for. Now, what ended up happening later was there was a lot of money being made, and growing communities were growing. So black people were leaving the South, going into the Midwest, the West, and the North. They're building more towns, or they're growing more towns. Not say everything was perfect, because it takes time for things to change, right? But these places are growing. Like we talked about the Negro League before. The Negro League was starting to boom. The communities the Negro Leagues ran were starting to grow. You have to squash that. The massacres weren't squashing them. When they were running in and massacring these neighborhoods, they weren't squashing them. They were rebuilding after that. So you had to completely squash them. Now we start giving our money to, after desegregation, we started giving our money to these other spaces. We actually fought to give them our money. That's something we have to actually think about. We literally fought to say, hey, please take our money. And they gladly did it. And they fought and funded movements to say, this is the right thing to do. That's what kept them on top. I'm not saying that everything was perfect before. I'm just saying the strategy that we utilized clearly did not benefit us economically. When we see that the wealth gap has literally increased. I saw, what's that lady's name? What's that white lady who pretended to be Cherokee or assumed she was Cherokee? What's her name?
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Now, I might have talked about this on the show before. Elizabeth Warren was talking to, what's the black surgeon's name who was head of HUD?
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson. Yeah. When he got appointed to be head of HUD, he started shutting down all the programs that are meant to help black people get housing. And he said, because we didn't need them anymore. And Elizabeth Warren pointed out, she said, wait a minute, you're saying that, but black people make less money today than they did in the 1960s. In 1964, we were making 1/10 of the wealth, 1/6 of the wealth that white people had. Now we have 1/10 of the wealth that white people have. We've made less money since the civil rights movement. So I'm not saying that segregation was a good thing, because like Malcolm X said, he said, I didn't create segregation. I'm not for segregation. It was imposed upon me, but I'm not begging y'all to accept me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, T.
Oh, no. What I was going to say, the part where I agreed with him about segregation being meant to keep whites on top, segregation practiced a certain way, which is I'm going to segregate things, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that I keep all the resources on my side and not your side. And if you do start getting resources, if that doesn't work, then you're a nice, easy target for me. I can just burn down your whole town in a way that I can't do as easily if you're intermingled with me. So it's like, I feel like Neely Fodder always says white supremacists know how to position themselves on both sides of an argument, so that no matter which side of the argument wins, they win. So I think with segregation, there's a way segregation can be done where, first off, it's voluntary, as in, like, if I want to segregate myself, but if I need to go to the white side of town to get something, or if I need resources, I can get them. Like, that's not the type of segregation that white people want. They want like a forced segregation that's like unequal. But then also there's a type of integration you could do that could work. But white people don't want that either. I feel like white supremacists put themselves in a way that no matter who won, it would just be, is it the right wing white supremacists who are going to win with their form of segregation, or is it going to be the left wing white supremacists who are going to win with integration? And I'll give you an example. The original Brown versus Board, there's a really good book about it. I forget the book, but Malcolm Gladwell has this podcast called Revisionist History, and he cites the book. And if you listen to his episode on Brown versus Board, he mentions the name of the book. But what the parents in Brown versus Board made a very interesting point. They said a lot of people think that the reason why we did the whole Brown versus Board is that we wanted to sit next to white people, or that our schools sucked, or that like the mother was saying that she really gets upset that people keep acting like the gift she was given was the right for her kids to be around white people and absorb like that, like that's a kind of magical presence, and by osmosis her kids were getting a better world. She was like, the black school was fine. The black school was actually very good. They had great teachers. The curriculum was great. The only problem was I live on this side of town, and my kids had to travel all the way across town just to go to school. When there was a school like the school that she wanted her kids to go to was a block away from her, and she's like, "Why am I paying taxes? Why am I living this life?" And there's a school right on my block. My kids can't go to it. I have to go across. But she was like, as far as the quality of the school, the teachers, I was perfectly fine with that school. So it's like the separation wasn't the problem. It was the lack of choice that, which I found. So it's like when people say segregation, they have to say, what do you mean by segregation? Because the separateness wasn't the problem. She would have preferred to keep going that way if she could. So the segregation was done in the white supremacist fashion, but this is what I thought was very interesting. What the book said was, when the integrationists won the order of the day, they still found a way to rig the game in their favor, because what the book was saying, while a lot of experts at the time were even saying, but they didn't do it this way, they were saying they should have integrated from the top down. So they should have gotten like black teachers, black administrators, black principals, even if they could, black assistant principals. Like, don't bring the black kids in first. There's all these great black teachers, great black principals, great black schoolmasters. Find a place for them, and maybe even bust some of the white administrators into the black neighborhoods, and that way bring the kids in last. When you bring the kids in last, now they have teachers who are sympathetic to them. They have administrators who will listen to them, and that'll help them. But what the book and different people said was very interesting. They said they did it backwards. They threw the kids to the wolves. What they did was they brought the kids in first. Now the kids have these surrounded by a whole bunch of white kid bullies, teachers who are racist, principals who are racist. And you ever see those videos where the kid is walking into the school and all those white people are yelling at the kid and spitting at them and throwing stuff? And they're kind of saying that we kind of fucked up. We just let our kids down. We just threw them to the wolves. But also, all those black teachers and black administrators, they all lost work. They became janitors. Yeah.
So it's funny because I'm so glad you're saying this, because this goes to something I was saying. I got put to a group chat on Twitter. It's really interesting, because not like a political group or anything. It's just people, and they're really fun, cool people. And I somehow got into this sort of conversation that we're getting into now. And one of the things I talk about is the way that we've been taught about our history and our movements is very deliberate, right? The way we were taught about Brown versus Board of Education was literally that Black people wanted to go to school with white people.
Yeah.
Right. You might have heard the story about, well, this Black school was too far or something like that. And even then that didn't make sense if you add and they threw in the doll test. Like none of this shit started to add up to me as far as how we concluded that Black kids needed to be in school with white kids. Like it just, nothing we were taught seemed to conclude that, but somehow we were always taught that that was what it was. When you start to, and it was interesting even then, I remember it wasn't even just because in some neighborhoods that wasn't the case. It wasn't the case in all neighborhoods that the Black school was far away, that they wanted money. They said, hey, we have these schools. Why are we not getting access to the same funding? And we're paying taxes just like everybody else. And instead of funding the school, they said, let's put the schools, these Black kids into these white schools. So it was so many facets to it. And we're not taught that in school, in our own school, because the education that we're taught gives us the history, this white supremacist lens on history, including our own history, and we internalize that. So I grew up hearing the story the way that you just described, that the woman was upset about how it was told, which is essentially that we wanted to go to school with white people to have this racial harmony. They throw in the I Have a Dream speech, and this was supposed to be the results of that, which was so crazy to me because my school didn't have no white kids in it. We had one white kid and we called him White Mike. I don't even know if the nigga's name was Michael.
What is interesting? The actual Supreme Court decision framed it that way, which is not the way the parents framed it. The Supreme Court decision, when it made the choice, and this is like, white liberals being white liberals, the Supreme Court decision framed it as, no, it's not a good school. It's an inferior school. and it's the inferior school that's causing the injury. So it's actually baked into the actual Supreme Court decision, Brown versus Board of Education, that everyone reads, that the kids are being deprived by not being allowed to go to school with white people and having to go to school in the black area. And they're even saying like that was not even the argument that we were making. That's just what these liberal judges projected themselves into the decision.
And this is why I say white liberalism and these white Democrats and shit are dangerous, because it always on the surface sounds like it's good and that it's going to benefit us. You know, it always sounds like that on the surface. Like people still try to sell us on the crime bill today because they want us to kiss Biden's ass. Yep. And they try to say, well, it was for us. And at the time, they were trying to sell it as though it was to keep our communities safe.
They didn't care.
Urban renewal, desegregation, all of it. It always sounds good on the surface, but I always ask the question, well, who really benefited in the end? Because the schools are more segregated today than they were before. And right now, they're trying to completely make it so that they don't got to go to school with your kids. That's what Betsy DeVos is out there trying to do right now, make these little weird white Christian schools and shit, you know? So everything that we claim, we were talking about the Negro League, and I think I brought this up before. What's his name? Jackie Robinson, quote unquote, broke the color barrier, but ain't no African Americans playing baseball now. All the black folks you see in MLB are from where? The Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. How many of them are from South Central, Harlem, fucking Atlanta?
And baseball is something that costs money to play. You gotta buy the equipment. You gotta do, like, a big reason why so many of us play basketball is because all you need is just a hoop and a ball, and you're off and running. But yeah, like, class affects black people in a lot of ways people don't even think about. Like as far like even something like going to baseball, like baseball's expensive now. Like the camps you have to go to stay competitive, the equipment.
You know what's expensive? Tennis. It's not an accident you don't see that many black folks in tennis. It's really not. That shit. I used to nanny a tennis player, a black tennis player. But first of all, the kids that are planning to go pro, some of them don't even go to school. They get homeschooled and they play tennis pretty much all day, every day. They get coaches, they have classes, they might join some sort of league or team. They're in tournaments every week. It's expensive, and all those things cost money. Like the equipment, the shoes, the tournaments, all that shit costs money. The trainers.
Real quick, I think I found the title of the book. I think this might be the title of the book. I could be wrong, but just in case I'm wrong, it's Revisionist History, Season 2, Episode 3 of Malcolm Gladwell's podcast. And they mentioned the book in there, but I think this is the book, Contempt and Pity, Social Policy and the Image of the Damaged Black Psyche by Darrell Michael Scott. And it talks about how it talks about what images of the black mind informed social policy. So it basically tries to say what images of black people were being used or being thought of when forming this social policy. And when it gets to Brown versus Board, one of the things it talks about is this idea that the gift is the gift of white proximity. And I think a lot of black people buy into that themselves. It's not just white people. There's a lot of black people who believe that the biggest gift they can give themselves or their children is the chance to be around white people. But Contempt and Pity by Darrell Michael Scott. But it covers a lot, not just the Brown versus Board. It covers 1880 to 1996. So
that sounds great. I'm actually gonna. So Isaac actually also gave me a book. It's called Kings. I guess about the school lottery kingpins, and that looked interesting. It's in the chat. I'll try to see if I can find it again. But I'm gonna check that out too. So thanks. I'm always like obsessively looking for shit like that because I love to learn about all that stuff. Also, sorry, real quick. I want to just address this real quick. The real Rick Ross was a tennis player. Now here's a little tidbit about the girl I used to play tennis. Used to nanny for her, who was a tennis player. Her mother is from that neighborhood. Her mother was a tennis player. He used to play with Rick Ross, the Dorsey High School. And at one point, his coaches, they actually have a tennis program, and part of it, and for part of Venus and Serena's early childhood, they actually coached them too. So that's like a small circle here. So everybody out here in South Central who's in that little tennis space all know that. So it's one little tidbit for you. But you had something else you were going to throw up there, T. I apologize.
Oh, no, it wasn't important, honestly. That's my way of saying I can't remember what it was.
It's fine.
I feel like it was important. I remember what it was, and I don't remember what it was at all. So
yeah.
Oh, I remember. Someone said that MLB is gonna had a plan to set up some youth camps in the hood to kind of give kids in the hood a chance to play baseball. And I was gonna ask the person who put it up if they know what happened to that.
Vita was gambling in Vegas. Thank you. Is that Kenny?
Yeah. Hey, Kenny, if you want to come in here, come in. It's a party.
Hi, Kenny.
What's going on, Kenny?
I'm mad. How you donate to yourself? Oh man,
I've done it when I'm in the chat. I've done it, and then people call me out on it.
You know what's funny? I was tempted to do it, but I was like, somebody's gonna call me out, so I let it go.
No, that's investing in that's investing in yourself. That's how I look at it.
I like that. No, I actually didn't gamble in Vegas, just for the record. I don't gamble. I have an aversion to losing money. So it's not one of those fun. It's not fun for me.
Oh yeah. Don't gamble if you have an aversion. Like you have to be ready to lose money to gamble correctly.
No.
Like if you try to gamble to break even, then you're gonna lose.
So you know what's funny? My mother, she usually wins, and and at the very least she breaks even when she goes with a set amount. Like my mother's very calculated. She goes so much. So I went for my mother's birthday. That's why I was there.
Oh, okay.
So we're celebrating her. And she had a wonderful time. She had been begging me to go. I told her I wasn't gonna go. One, I just didn't really want to go to Vegas. But two, it's just I don't want to take time off of work just to go to Vegas. So my mother's like begging me to go. I finally go, but she has such a great time. She can sit at the slots for I don't know how long. She ended up making all her money back the last night, and then a little bit more than that, and went and bought a Louis bag. So
nice.
Yes, because in those hotels, we stayed at the Venetian. So in those kind of hotels, they have those big fucking all the big brand stores, the Michael Kors and Chanel and all that shit is like right there. So you win your money, and the first thing you go do is buy some bullshit. So
they the first time I went to gamble, I was just trying not to lose money, and I was like really proud of myself that I didn't lose any money. And I went to this old man I know who gambled, and he was like, "Why are you proud of that?" You know, like if you go to not lose money, he was telling me you can't play to not lose, or the best you're ever going to do is not lose. You know, it's like you got to play to win. So he says you go in there with like, even if it's only like $100, say this is $100 that I've kissed off, I've written off. You know, this is fun. This is having fun money, and then just play like you don't care if you lose or win it. So that's basically how you have to gamble. You either have to have money that you've kind of mentally spent already before you gamble. But yeah, you see people, because I used to play poker, and you see people on the table, and you can tell what they're betting is like paycheck money. You know, you can see it like in their face, like, you know, they're like playing scared, or like they have to make an explanation to their wife or the kids if this hand doesn't work. And you can't play that way. You're gonna
see. I can't even play poker. I don't, honestly, real shit, I don't even know how to play the slots. So like if my mother has to like sit with me and show me how all this shit works, even now I don't know how to actually do any of it. I like playing blackjack on the computer.
Yeah.
Some of the bars will have a little computer there you can play.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, that's fun, because then I just feel like I'm playing an arcade game by myself, not embarrassing myself. But
You're not scary about those though. I feel like that because there's no pressure and it feels like an arcade game. It's easier to spend a lot of money on that without even realizing it. You
And
will
they get
not
you
even
the whole time.
yeah, you will not realize it at all. But I like blackjack is my favorite game. I don't like poker that much because poker is kind of depressing. Like a lot of people at the poker table can depress you sometimes. Like yeah, blackjack I think is a fun game.
Well, because it feels like an actual game. Because I used to play it as we played 21
Yeah.
as kids. So it just feels like a game. And it feels like there's some strategy involved as opposed to just sliding a lever up and down. But we ended up going to Lake Las Vegas and like a little yacht party thing, and that was a lot of fun. If anybody follows me on Instagram, I posted like videos of like some wild shit. Like this dude was on some fucking jet propulsion water thing, and he was doing backflips in the water with this. It was wild. And he then pouring champagne in our glasses while I don't mind you, he's in the ocean.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, he's in the lake and we're in the boat. I'll follow me on Instagram or hit me up and I'll show you the video. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, this is true. Gambling is depressing. Unless you're gonna say this next, the town of Las Vegas is depressing. Like in general. Like
I think Vegas is fun in general.
On the strip or off the strip? Like Vegas. Vegas where people like live, I find really
it sucks. Depressing. I would never live there.
Yeah. I feel I'm very depressing. Like on the strip, not so much, but when I travel, I like to try to get the authentic experience. So when I went to Vegas, I'm like, I want to be where the locals are. And I hung out like in real Las Vegas. I'm like, you know what? I'm good with authenticity. I don't want any more of this. This is depressing.
It's the desert. Like, there's nothing there. And it's wild and the food's not that great. But so do you have people in Vegas though?
No, but
I live in LA. So the thing about LA and Vegas is most people we know lived back and forth. So I have so many family and friends that lived in Vegas or currently live in Vegas. Like even when I was there, the reason why I even knew about the lake yacht party shit is because of my cousin lives there. So you actually get to do the shit locals do when you have people there. So that's how I'm able to do the fun shit off the strip because I know people. And one of my cousins works for a radio station. She has access to all the fun parties. So that's what makes it fun. The only thing that made Vegas hard this time was the COVID shit because you can't party really. It's mostly just gambling and drinking.
I mean, what I did when I went to Vegas, right? Like I met people like from Vegas there because the employees, because I'm good at meeting people. I'm very good at that. Like a lot of the employees are the locals. So I would ask the employees, like, what's going on in the area? And they're like, oh, there's a big block party where I live, or come to the strip, come to like the beauty bar. So I would go down there, and then there were like a lot of meth out looking white people.
Well, you're a New Yorker, I'll also say. So
maybe that's what it is.
I feel because I'm a city person too. So remember, you're coming into the desert with desert people.
Yeah.
So I think, and it's and I'm not saying it to be fucked up. But it's literally a whole other mentality.
No, I know what you mean because Breaking Bad was like that. When I look at the show Breaking Bad and the way people look in Breaking Bad, I'm like, oh man, that looks like really kind of dusty.
Yeah, it is, and that's not a knock on the people. There's some really dope people that have family there, but it's just it's a different way of looking at the city because there is not really a city. It's literally just the desert. It's not as much to do. Things move a little bit slower. Random things are expensive for no reason.
I'll tell you what was depressing me about there too. Like people I were meeting, they had a lot of what I call like wounded birds, like people who were kind of like running from something. So like I would meet somebody and like say like this guy, he was like this guy left LA, and reading between the lines, I realized okay, this guy was in some gang shit or had something fucked up going on where he had to leave to start his life over because there was bad stuff going on there. So he was driving a car and he was kind of telling me how it's tough here, but at least I won't get in trouble here, So
that's the thing about desert places. Exactly. And I'm like, glad you said that because that's pretty much how desert places work. The same, you will hear the same shit if you came to LA and you went to Palmdale or Lancaster or went out into what we call the Inland Empire. That's like where Hit Boy and them is from. If you go out to those kind of places, what you'll find, especially a lot of them leave specifically LA to escape gang life, or they get their families away from it. So there was a huge movement during the late 90s, early 2000s because of the crack epidemic and all the gang shit that was happening here. a lot of Black people started moving to the desert area. So Vegas, Palmdale, Lancaster, Apple Valley, Victorville, San Bernardino. These are the places people are moving to because it's cheaper. The goal is to get out of that life. The problem is a lot of it follows you to those spaces because everybody's moving out there. Everybody grandma that moved out there and bought a house, you know.
That was what Miami was to New Yorkers. There was a stage where every New Yorker trying to escape New York went to Miami. And then like 10 years later, like in the 90s, a bunch of people came back and you'd ask them, why are you back here? And they're like, everyone else trying to get away from moved to Miami. So I just came back.
It's funny because everybody's moving back to LA that moved to New York. They're all moving
was that a thing? Were
yeah,
LA people moved to New York?
remember, the music industry was big in New York. That's where all the rappers are moving to. But now most of the labels are out here. I know the Universal Music's out here now. The urban music is definitely out here. Because my cousin was working for them. That's how I found out. Because they moved him out here. What's his name? Russell Simmons moved out here. Almost all the big people are out here.
Yeah, and there was a time when New York was really trying to make itself like the East Coast LA. We had the movie studios starting and all that stuff, but that's been fading. I think COVID is going to be like the final nail in that coffin for a while. A lot of people left New York altogether.
I think New York is hard because the weather isn't as good as LA. That's what makes LA so easy to film.
And it's expensive. It's expensive. But you know what happened with New York? I think it's really messed it up was they catered everything to gentrifiers, and a lot of Black people just started going to the South, started going to different places, going to New Jersey, whatever. And now these gentrifiers have no loyalty to anything. They just want to be where it's a gentrification playground. So the minute COVID hit and the minute the crime, because the crime's been coming back now since COVID, the gentrifiers just left. Gentrifiers said in the hot second, "Oh, New York is over. This is a war zone." So now all the old people left, and all the rich people who were treating it like a playground with no loyalty to anything, they abandoned New York like in a hot second. So New York's in a funny place right now, where it's like there's vacancies everywhere. You can't fill anything. Yeah.
Sustainable. None of this shit is sustainable. Nope. San Francisco's going through similar shit. In fact, I think outside of New York, I think that's like the second place going through most of this.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy about the Bay is they were looking forward to booming because of the whole Silicon Valley shit.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing now that whatever they thought was finna pop ain't finna pop. And then this COVID shit just made it way worse.
Have you ever had like a spell where you're making a lot of money, like more than usual? Yeah, the rents went down big time. A lot of my friends moved just to go to neighborhoods they couldn't normally afford. Like a lot of people are treating it like a shopping spree. People who couldn't afford Williamsburg or Manhattan are just saying, "Hey, I always want to try this neighborhood." Even yeah. People getting their rent reduced. Yeah, all types of stuff. Yeah, people either moving out or people in New York are just moving just to try new neighborhoods or get their rent reduced. But I forgot what I was. Oh yeah. If you ever had a spell where you made a lot of money and you got used to that money to get one particularly good job or one good hustle, it's amazing how quick your life scales up and you get used to those expenses. And I think a lot of landlords, a lot of people who are making money off of gentrifiers, like people opening these new restaurants, they were in a position where they scaled their life up to where they needed or depending on people renting like $6,000 a month apartments or spending hundreds of dollars a week on takeout or eating and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people are like freaking out, like landlords freaking out. They don't know what to do.
And what's up on Twitter with this whole like anti-landlord movement I've been seeing?
Yeah, well, a lot of these leftists on Twitter are real overboard with the anti-landlord stuff because like a lot of landlords like yeah, because a lot of them will lump up like somebody renting out like the bottom floor of their house, treated interchangeably with a slumlord or a developer who owns like a bunch of properties and stuff. Yeah,
like they'll go in on like some random Black person who is like, invested in the house and rented it out, and then they'll be like, "You're a terrible person." And I'll be like,
yeah, a lot of black socialists especially are like that. Like shut up. Like same with you ever seen a black person starts a water company or something and says, "Hey, black owned spring water," and then suddenly like a bunch of like black socialists would be like, "Water should be free." You're like, I'm like, that's just like the Killmonger thing, like you probably drink spring water all day long. Like, like this black spring water company probably owns like 0.2% of the spring water market. And you're gonna
own 0.2%. They just started yesterday.
Yeah. And this thing is keeping you up at night. And meanwhile, Poland Spring is just running shit. And I searched their Twitter timelines for the screen name and Poland Spring or Avion and like, nothing, like.
I mean, yeah. I just feel like you know what? I will say this, and I think, and this is gonna probably piss off a lot of people when I say this. Sorry, guys, in advance.
Yeah.
But I really have a hard time being really angry at Black people who are just trying something entrepreneurial. Not everybody has the same political education as you do or understanding of capitalism and socialism. All they know is how to fucking survive. All they know is this is how you make it in America. You got to start a business. You got to do something. And so I really get annoyed sometimes when we go in on people.
Yeah.
Because like they don't have some political education around, water, and they're like, hey, I know if you sell water, I have a business here. I figured out a way I can sell some water. I can make some money to feed my family. I can make some money to pay my bills. You know what I mean?
And there's a pragmatism that we have to have as Black people. Like a lot of us don't have generations of money, or even if we're doing okay and we have a decent income, we're like 1 or 2 paychecks away from being in trouble. We don't have like parents who could subsidize our rent, or like I have white friends who got a surprise. Those one white person that I knew who had a grandfather that died that they didn't even really know, that left them enough money to buy a building in Brooklyn. And this is just like it's not like, you have a rich ancestor or a rich like grandparent that you're like watching like a hawk when they die. I've heard stories like that. This person didn't even know this grandparent or that they had that much money. Like they can get surprise money sometimes, white people. Like picture having a relative that can give you surprise millions. Like it's something that I can't even fathom, So we don't have those stories. If a Black person has some kind of entrepreneurial hustle that maybe it's not ideal, but I'm not.
This is the reality. Most businesses fail. Most Black businesses fail. Most Black businesses, most Black entrepreneurs are not multimillionaires. I don't care if you see the 3 on Twitter that did become one, in tech somewhere. And those people exist. There's a few of them, but it ain't that many of them. Most Black people, even the ones you see on Twitter and Instagram, aren't that successful. They know how to take great pictures. So, I don't think you guys realize a lot of these people are not making like shit tons of money and creating economic problems for our people because of their business. I saw this comment here from LG. Private property shouldn't exist at all, regardless of the race of the one who owns. It's a detriment to all. So this is the thing, LG. In reality, I would love to say, yes, private property shouldn't exist, because it shouldn't, if we're being honest. I remember when I was in school, this lady gave me a comparison. She's like, to my people, that's like owning the piece of the sky. It just doesn't make any sense, right? Okay. But the reality is this. You live in a global society that does look at private property as something that does exist. That's just the reality of the situation. I know I want to say we should abolish all of it, and we should, but that's just not the realistic life that we're living. You have to own property out here. Black people don't even own that much of it to even be upset when we own some. Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. I'll ask question, LG. Where do you currently live? Do you own the property that you live on? If not, who are you paying? Because if you giving somebody money who does own that property, and you're sitting on it right now. So somebody is being paid, and somebody owns the land that you're sitting on at this very, very moment.
And like the way I feel about it, while you're waiting for him to answer, like the way I feel about it is, look, when the day comes when all property is gone, then so be it. But up until that point, people got to live. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and when they start asking me to pay my bills or whatever, or I got to pay my rent and stuff, I can't say, well, private property shouldn't exist, because they're gonna be like, well, you shouldn't exist in this space. I'm not gonna evict you. You know what I mean? Like it's like I get the idea behind it. I get the idea. It's like, you're tied. See, like, you're tied in the current system regardless. Like, I'm saying, look, a lot of these white socialists who talk all this stuff, when their parents give them that money from when they die, or the grandparents give them that money, that socialist right now might be above the fray, but they're gonna take that money from their parents or grandparents and whatever, and that parent or grandparent most likely made that money through private industry. They're not gonna give it. They're not gonna give it away. Like, capitalism is already baked into their net worth. Like, they had grandparents and great grandparents who did the landlording, who did the property buying, who did the entrepreneurial stuff. So they're able to kind of take this high road because they don't have to get their hands dirty. Someone a couple generations ago got their hands dirty already for them. But look at people going under from COVID. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Another thing I was going to say, I think we have to also, a lot of these Black businesses aren't starting with anything at all.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcasts, and I think I've brought it up here before, it's called How I Built This. And they interview people who created, all types of businesses that we've heard of, like Airbnb, Lyft, Radio One. So they have like Kathy Hughes on there, the Home Depot, people who founded a lot of these companies, right? You name it, Pop Chips, or no, Pita Chips, called Pita Chips, whatever the Pita Chip company is. Those kind of people, right? And I love that podcast. And what I love about it is you get to hear the truth behind a lot of these people that they throw in your face as being these successful entrepreneurs. Many of them come from business backgrounds. Their parents were executives in businesses. They asked them, well, how did you get the money to start your business? Oh, we were able to raise it among our family.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to put together $100,000 so they could get manufacturing equipment for their product, because they were able to call up their relatives and get them to all come pitch in and come up with $100,000. Let me tell you something. You can call everybody in my family today, and you're gonna struggle to get $1,000 from anybody.
And I'm nosy. I ask people because when gentrification was really popping off, and there was a lot of group economics talk and stuff, and I started telling myself, let me start asking white people how they open these places. So every time a coffee place open, a restaurant open, I would straight up ask, and a lot of them won't tell you right away. But if you finesse it, and a lot of people were telling me, like one girl told me, yeah, we did a crowdfunding, right? And then we were talking a little longer. She was like, okay, well, the crowdfunding was really only like 20% of it. 80% was family and friends. See? One person told me that at their wedding, they had a wedding and they got enough money from just their wedding to open up a bar, and the bar was a lot of square feet. And I'm like, damn, just from guests at a wedding, you got like seed capital.
Listen, this is why I trip off of that's why I love those shows. I watch all the shit that pisses everybody else off, and I love those shows because it shows you how much bullshit you're being sold. White people up here getting money from talking about, I pulled myself up on my bootstrap. I just worked really hard. You didn't. A lot of these Black companies literally are starting from nothing. Nothing. I watched my brother build a business from nothing.
Yeah, a big problem I think is too with people, and the internet's good for this. You always lose the middle ground and the lack of nuance. So people think if you're accepting that people have to do pragmatic things sometimes, and if they have to choose between owning a piece of property and getting some residual income or being a renter while they're waiting for the revolution to happen, then they think you must be part of Rise and Grind, Rock Nation Brunch Twitter, Brunch with Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, people think, oh, you must be a bootstrapper. You must be thinking that
right.
And I'm like, no, I am not a bootstrapper. I'm not one of those. I'm not part of LLC Twitter. I don't think Lunch with Jay-Z and group economics is going to save everything. I don't believe that Black people have $1 trillion buying power. Like, I don't buy into those myths, but I also realize Black people can't just count on some revolution down the road to come, because white people have things to tide them over while they're being principled that a lot of Black people don't have.
You know, it's funny because I think there's a couple of things. I think sometimes there are people who are sincere in their beliefs and their movement, and that's why they have the perspective that they have. And I think there are some people whose identity is wrapped up in the struggle, and it's not about progress at all. Because if that's who you, because I think it's unrealistic to think you're going to overthrow capitalism in your lifetime. And I think it's really unfair to judge other people who want to figure out how to survive during their lifetime. Well, especially, I guess, because I also look at things from a sociological perspective. And I'm always aware that people make decisions based off of what they have access to. That's how people make decisions. Not necessarily because they're evil people, but what do they have access to and how will they benefit or gain from it?
Sorry, go on.
But I just feel like a lot of times because when you look at things from that perspective, you understand, okay, so what is the system that we're trying to survive in? We're trying to figure out how are we going to survive in this rat race. All these white folks, I got to pay these white folks every time I want to get, make sure I have a place to stay, or make sure I have groceries I can eat. I got to go down the street and pay a motherfucker named Kroger. I don't know Kroger, never met the nigga in my life, but I got to go over there and hand him my money just so I can get some groceries. There ain't that many grocery stores over here.
Here is a very sorry, go on. I'm sorry. You know what happens? Like you have little gaps when you're talking, and I think that it's a time to jump in, but you're not done. So,
well, I just like to give my point time to breathe, because I know I speak fast, and so I know that if I run my words together too much, people can miss what I'm trying to say. So
no, I just want you to know that I'm not mansplaining. I'm not trying to talk over you. I just think that I just occasionally think that you're done. So I think that's the time to go in. So
no, it's fine.
Okay,
it's fine.
So something that I think a lot of people are gonna need to really be real about, because this is what my problem. A lot of like internet radicals, they like to tweet about guillotines, but really all they're doing is hoping that Bernie Sanders is gonna win, or that some kind of electoral or some kind of follow the rules solution is going to end capitalism in their lifetime. And the truth of the matter is, capitalism, I don't think, is going to end in anybody's lifetime without bloodshed. And a lot of people aren't built for that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's gonna be the real truth. Like, a lot of
niggas talking that shit ain't built for that though.
What's that? Yeah, a lot of people talking that. Yeah, a lot of people talking that.
They're not out there with sniper rifles, learning how to shoot these cops that just let Breonna Taylor, that just murdered Breonna Taylor. They ain't not, you know what I'm saying? So people be talking that shit, but I don't see them out there doing nothing. If you don't got no gun, what the fuck you telling everybody? What are you talking about?
Even things like arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Even like saying that, like, it means well, but at the same time, you're asking the cops to solve a solution that they created. It kind of shows how at the end of the day, you just really kind of like want to reform things or just course correct. But somebody tweeted something that I thought was very bold. Like I never tweeted any of that stuff, even the arrest Breonna Taylor thing, because I just thought it's so stupid and performative. Like it doesn't solve anything to just make someone into a hashtag, really. So I didn't like tweeting like, by the way, the cops are still free. But someone did this. I thought was very bold. They said, "Kill the cops who killed Breonna Taylor," and that thing had like single-digit retweets. So even tweeting too reckless.
I saw it.
What's that?
So I never even saw that.
Yeah, I saw it, and that thing had crickets and tumbleweeds in the replies. People were like,
well, you gotta remember, Twitter be looking for shit. And I'm gonna tell y'all some real shit. This just happened to me recently. I wasn't gonna speak on it, but I only speak on it briefly because I'm not really supposed to. But I understand why I wouldn't retweet that either.
Yeah.
Someone tried to get me fired last week.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. They went and screenshot my tweets for the past 6 months.
Damn.
Found out where I worked. Emailed my boss.
That happened to another friend of mine too.
Yeah. Now what's interesting is a person tried to say I was being racist towards Latinos and indigenous people, which I wasn't. And I wouldn't do that anyway. This girl was a lunatic though. So,
Yeah.
if that's what made it, so
They
but she
usually
only
are.
screenshot the shit that I said. She didn't screenshot any of the racist shit she said. It ended up backfiring on her because my boss was basically like, she's not really my boss. She's the ED of the organization.
Yeah.
And she said, she hit me and she said, I apologize that you had to do with this racist shit, essentially.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, but that's also on that. But yeah, so I get why people are careful now because people are looking and searching your shit. I don't even know how she found my real job. I have no clue.
See, but I'm not saying that people should be tweeting that stuff. But what I'm saying is, you're not pretending that you're creeping around the corner like Malcolm X with a gun in your hand, ready to shoot anybody that comes. Like what I'm saying is, a lot of people talk that radical stuff, but they won't even tweet that thing. Like people like me and you, I don't think we're pretending that. Like we kind of realize pragmatism is really what's going to happen. Like I don't. One of the big reasons why I don't even like talking all that stuff is I think most people aren't really going to be down with it for you. Like the people talk about it the most. If you try to do anything with these people, they're going to be the first people to snitch on you. Like I feel like
absolutely.
I don't trust a lot of these people that talk so crazy. Like I don't trust them at all. So.
Look, I got stories. I told you I grew up in the activist space. This is like I tell y'all this shit all the time. I can tell you so many things I've seen. I've seen people throw other organizations and other activists and organizers under the bus for some bullshit funding from some white foundation while they were talking all that revolutionary shit. They're talking, they got the Che Guevara fucking military jackets on. They talking all this shit. In the meantime, they doing some underhanded shady shit, kissing asses on white folk to get funding. So I'm just saying that's the kind of shit I see that shit all the time.
And my thing is, I'm not telling people that you've got to do crazy stuff and you've got to make the guillotines reality. What I'm saying is, be realistic about what your movement is. Like for example, if your movement is all, like I'll give you examples. There's a lot of people talk about guillotines, uprising, revolution, but then Bernie Sanders withdrew and they're suicidal, and I'm like, wait. You had one guy run for electoral politics and get really close twice in a row, and you're gonna give up after that? Like, you weren't really thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like you weren't thinking in a revolutionary space. But that's fine. Be honest about it, and then once you're honest about it, then you can start talking about pragmatic solutions. So this person's talking about don't want your own private property. Fuck all landlords, even the mom and pop landlord. Tear down the banks, do all this stuff. Wait, Bernie Sanders lost? I'm throwing in the towel.
What did you say?
People talk all this crazy stuff, but then the minute
the last thing that you said.
Oh, Bernie Sanders lost, I'm throwing in the towel. I can't see a future. Like their political imagination has just stopped right then and there. So
it's the whole Bernie thing is so fascinating to me because I think people assume that I'm pro Bernie and I don't like Bernie at all. And I didn't like Bernie really ever. But I don't really trust any white politician or any white person. So don't go by me. But I find it interesting that there's this weird polarization around Bernie. Like there's this belief that you're supposed to, like if you have any sort of association with Bernie, or it's like you have to be some sort of extreme radical, and I don't even see Bernie supporters as radical necessarily.
I mean, Bernie is not super radical. He's a democratic socialist. You know what I'm saying? Which is fine, but he's not. I mean, he's not like these things called our revolution, and I'm like, I wish people would stop overusing the word revolution.
Well, I don't think you even know what it means because revolution doesn't even necessarily mean it has to be something physical. Revolution just means something has changed.
But I don't think. But there's a difference between revolution and a reform, and I think he's trying to reform capitalism. That's what he's doing. He's like, I think a revolution against capitalism would have to be abolishing capitalism, and that's not what Bernie Sanders is doing. He wants to reform capitalism. He wants to make capitalism fairer. You know. I think this is fair by not normalizing Black capitalism, but you have to describe what normalizing means, because normalizing can mean something different to you than what it means.
Yeah, I don't think but there is no Black capitalism. So that's my problem with that. There is no what Black capitalism are you talking about? We ain't got shit. The 4 Black niggas you see up here getting some money ain't shit. We make no fucking money. What is this? What Black capitalism even exists? It's a fucking joke. Like, to me, Black capitalism is the equivalent of saying Black supremacy. That's what that sounds like to me. The shit don't exist.
I think another problem is our Black politics is really, really bad right now. I mean, all our pundits, all our most influential politicians have just been sheepdogging us to Joe Biden, and people who just don't even bother to even pretend to have a Black agenda or even a class-based agenda. So it's like, if you can get some kind of side hustle or something to get you through the lean times, you know what I'm saying? Then, you know, so be it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Like, I'm not, like, I feel like everything with us has to be one extreme or the other. Either you're saying that capitalism is going to save everyone and is the ultimate answer, or forget private and personal property, forget everything. And I feel like we've got to, like, do whatever works whenever it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just don't see Black people having the luxury to just opt out of capitalism while waiting for the revolution to happen, especially a revolution that a lot of people aren't really trying to do.
You know, I'm looking at these comments. These are really interesting. I think when Black people say Black capitalism, they're talking about a mindset and aspirations. Then you're not talking about capitalism. I guarantee you these white boys ain't going to the bank talking about mindsets. These niggas got fucking collateral. What are you talking about? That mean you're talking about something that exists in our minds, in our imaginations. Like, I'm not saying I don't understand your perspectives. Not you personally, you're Jay. I'm just speaking in general. But the perspective of not wanting to feel like we're putting Black people who engage in capitalism as some sort of hero. And I definitely understand that perspective. I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is it's crazy to me to make it seem as though this is some example of, like, we're in danger of Black capitalism or something like that. It's again, it sounds to me like you're afraid of, like, being, as though we're saying there's a thing called Black supremacy and there's something we should be concerned about. We don't have any fucking money. Like, I don't know if we understand how poor we are. Every other year, there's a new article talking about how we ain't got no money.
I'll say something else too that adds on to what you're saying. You know how you say it's like people say Black supremacy? It's like reverse racism. You know, when some people say Black racism is, to the extent that it exists, you know, or Black prejudice or Black bigotry is defensive. You know, whereas white bigotry is like actual, like, power. I feel like Black capitalism, to the extent that it exists, is defensive. Like we have what I would call defensive capitalism. We don't have like robber baron capitalism. We don't have exploitation capitalism, even though all capitalism is at the end of the day exploitative. But we are capitalists from a defensive standpoint, which is, you know, to just keep our heads above water and not have to do any crime, or not have to count on government agencies or whatever that might not be trying to help us. You know, like I think we have a defensive form of capitalism, and I don't think it's realistic to try to equate capitalism as Black people practice it, because first off, there's a scale, like you said, but then also the fact that it's defensive, and then try to lump it in with white capitalism. I think it's not really the same thing.
So I'm high, so I got a great metaphor. So
okay.
No, and then it was in the form of a short story. When I was a nanny, you guys know I teach about trauma and shit, right? And I teach about empathy and connection, and I teach de-escalation. I don't believe in, I'm a nonviolent person. I believe if I can de-escalate a situation, I would rather do that than be violent. I learned that when I was nannying for this white lady, and she had me read these books about nonviolent communication, because that's how she wanted me to work with her kid. In reading the content and the material, I thought it was great information. However, I understood that sometimes you got to put hands on people because I have my experience and how I grew up. I'm realistic when I say if I depending on where I'm raising my kids and where the type of environment they may have to survive in, they're gonna have to learn how to put hands. She was one of those people who believed in nonviolence whatsoever. There's no cause for violence. And I said, well, what if somebody's swinging on you? Then you duck or you defend yourself or you try to de-escalate the situation beforehand. I said, well, what if that don't work? What if that don't work? So you mean to tell me you would just put your child in a room full of people that's just swinging on them and tell them don't swing back? The expectations are probably going to have to do what they have to do to survive. Doesn't mean what they're doing is the right way. They don't know what are they supposed to do. I think it's a wonderful idea if we can get there to say, yeah, we shouldn't own property and water should be free and we should live in this great utopia. But me personally, I don't think that's realistic anytime soon. So I can't be mad at the people who are trying to survive in that space. I'm not saying everything they do is right. Doesn't mean I think that they're doing. I mean, yeah, you got your Umars and your grifters and all that stuff. That does exist.
And Jay Morris.
That's always existed. But guess what? That has always existed amongst every group all across America. And usually, guess who? Among poor people. That's usually who's doing it. But guess who's doing the most exploitation, the most grifting? People that we pay our money to every fucking day and don't complain. Every time you fill up your gas at the fucking gas tank. That car note that you paying. The rent that you pay. The bank you're paying that loan back to so you can keep the property that you're sitting on, that you actually just sitting on because you don't even own it yet. You won't own it for another 30 years.
I mean, this comment is pretty good because I think it's a perfect example by talking about the one extreme or the other. Like, I don't believe that $1 trillion black buying power thing. I don't think group economics alone are going to save black people because white people don't even really practice it. White people get bailouts. White people get stuff from the government. Like
they don't have to practice it. They have a whole system that's group economics.
They have a whole system. Yep. But it's like, no, but the reason I highlighted this is because I'm not saying that there's a black economy that's to the point that group economics is going to do everything. But that's what I'm saying. Everything's one extreme or the other. Either you're saying wait for the revolution and opt out of all of it, or you're saying capitalism is going to save everything for black people.
Yeah.
And I don't think either extreme is going to happen. I think you have to fight for what you need from the government the way everyone else does. I think you have to, fight for a federal jobs program. Government jobs is a great way to help black people. But at the same time, if you have a capitalistic hustle that you can do to get a security blanket, including being a landlord, you're going to have to do that,
That's what I'm trying to explain. And I think that's what people are missing. Okay, so LG is saying defensive capitalism is not better than offensive capitalism. Notice that neither of us said that. Notice that neither of us made that claim. So this is why it's important you guys will find I say this on Twitter a lot. One of my biggest pet peeves is when when we're saying one thing or I'm saying one thing, and then someone responds as though I said something different than what I said. It's just one of those things that just bugs me. Not saying this in particular is bugging me in that same way, but let's be very clear. No one is saying defensive capitalism is better than. What we're saying is we're not being judgmental and hateful towards people who are doing what they can to survive. That's not the same statement. Yes, people need to survive, but the survival reproduces domination. Capitalism fucks over black people the most. I understand that. I'm not oblivious to any of that. And I hope that's clear that I'm not oblivious to any of that. What I'm saying is that it doesn't make sense to me for us to be upset with the people who are trying to survive.
To put the onus on the black people to end it, because all the black people in the world can opt out of capitalism, and it's not going to change it like a blip. Like you said, we're such a small part. It's up to white people to end capitalism because they own most of the shit. If every single black person opted out of capitalism right now, because what is opted out? Because first off, it's capitalism and it's consumerism. Black people still have to buy stuff, but say somehow we opt out of capitalism and consumerism. Like, at the end of the day, how big a difference would it really make as far as tumbling capitalism down? It's up to white people to really end capitalism, and I just find it weird that a lot of people are extra hard on black capitalists. But
Yeah.
but it's your white capitalists like, oh, we just can't change that. It was irresistible force. It's the same as that Killmonger versus the CIA thing. Like everyone has smoke for Killmonger, but the CIA is like the G7, the United Nations. Well, what can we do? We have to reform that. We have to yeah.
And I looking at what Isaac is saying, Vitas, I'm going off what I see in my group chats and Facebook friends. Most of these Black people I know that are business owners don't own any hard assets. It's all MLM drop shipping. So what's interesting about what you're saying, Isaac, is I know exactly what you're talking about. That's like a whole other world, online world.
Yeah, that's not even capitalism though. That's just cosplay. That's not even real.
It's cosplay, and a lot of it is they don't realize that they're paying somebody to tell them this shit or to give them these products. Like that the business is what they're actually doing. They're the consumer, not the business.
Yep.
And I think that I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it because I've seen the ads. Like I said, I listen to not as much now, but I used to listen to a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. Mostly because I just wanted to see what kind of products and tools existed for the business that I was working on at the time. And which it is helpful for that. But you do get insights to a lot of the mentality of a lot of these people. And you also get I listened to a lot of interviews of people who owned B2B businesses, which are business to business businesses, meaning that they serve you or help you because you claim to be a business. So that whole world I always thought to be really interesting. And I definitely have seen that. There was something else that was said that I wanted to touch on, and I forgot what it was. I think it's based on something you said. What was the last thing you said? T.
Me? I can't even remember myself. I can't even remember myself.
I hit the bowl too, so hit the bong. So. But I just think it's really unfair to be upset with the people that are trying to survive in the system. That doesn't mean that I think everything that's being done in that is okay. I don't think drug dealing is okay. Like, I don't think it's a good thing. I would never encourage anybody that I know and love to do it, even if it were legal. I would not want the people I love involved in that.
Actually, I remember what I was saying. If it helps you, I was talking about how people seem to have more smoke for like.
Oh, I know exactly what I was going to get to.
People are so used to us being like the moral authority. I mean, in anything, even in movies, like, Black people are judged by how well they turn the other cheek or be the conscience of everyone. But people kind of have this lower expectations for white people that actually lets them get away with murder. So this kind of idea, well, white people are supposed to be capitalist bloodsuckers, but we're supposed to be better than that, and then we end up getting judged harsher.
I know what I was going to say now, so I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to lose it again. So the thing I was thinking about was how a lot of times we don't want to consider the survival aspect of things because we want to sit on our moral high horse, right? And be the self-righteous. I'm political. I know all the capitalism shit. Like, I honestly, not to knock people, but I feel like I already went through that phase. I did that shit when I was like 14, But one of the things I did learn as an adult working with families, when I started working in direct social services. Before that, like I said, I was doing mostly community organizing type shit. I wasn't doing direct service. When I was doing direct service work, it totally changed my perspective on a lot of shit. Because politically, I had a lot of beliefs, but it's different when you have someone sitting in your face telling you that they are struggling with doing certain things. Yeah, miss, you saying all that shit you're saying is cool. You right. Like, yeah, I shouldn't be out here in these streets, but how my sister gonna get a backpack for school? Yeah, you right. Maybe I shouldn't be out here doing this or that, but I still got to figure out how I'm gonna feed my kid. I mean, and I'm 17. And nobody wants to hire me. So you said all this shit, miss, and that's cool. You right. But the reality of the situation is this. I got to do this. Yeah, you right. I can't leave my kids home alone, but I got to go to work. I got a double shift. And I can't afford to pay nobody to come sit with these kids. So you right. And it's wrong to leave my 10-year-old here by herself. But what the fuck else am I supposed to do? She gonna eat.
I mean, look even at this podcast. I mean, this podcast is like basically an entrepreneurial hustle at the end of the day, but it's like, look, I would have loved to have a system where I could have gotten Bernie Sanders into office and he would have gotten rid of my student loans. And he was promising getting rid of student loans, but once anybody talks about anything real right now, Medicare for all, forgive all student loans, anything outside of bailing out a bank, no one, including these so-called Democrats who are supposed to be on my side, give a fuck about me. I mean, the Democrats are working as hard to throw Bernie and stuff under the bus as anyone else, you know, and all these liberals and pundits and Democratic politicians and stuff. So it's like, if I can get some extra money every month to drop on my student loans for this podcast, it's like, hey, because at the end of the day, so many people are scrambling every week or month to scrape whatever extra they can while they're trying to make the world a better place. And if you've got a way to opt out of entrepreneurial hustle or making some extra money or being employed at all, God bless you. Let me know how to do it.
Like there's so many things. Like I'm a big proponent of divesting from the public school system as Black people, right? Like not putting our kids in these schools, right? However, one of the things I'm very realistic about, that's not an option for everybody. Everybody can't homeschool. Everybody doesn't live in a place where they can just organize someone in the neighborhood to teach. I know in California, you can't do that because they're trying to stop all the anti-vaxxers from organizing in their communities. So the whole thing is you have to be realistic. As much as I want us to do certain things, and I think we should, I fuck the school system. I hate the fact that we put our kids in these schools. But I'm also realistic in understanding that a lot of our families don't have a fucking choice. What the fuck else are they going to do? They don't live in 2-parent homes. They can't work from home. You know what I mean? So I just feel like, and by law, your kid has to be in a school. By law. Utilizing the curriculum of the government. And you don't have a choice. So as much as I want to say we have these beliefs and these ideologies and these things that we want to live by, we can't judge people for having to make the decisions they have to make to get through and to survive the best way that they know how.
Yeah, I agree. And we can't make them as responsible. Like, I don't know. I think perspective, I think nuanced perspective just flies out the window a lot. I don't know what's going on in the comments, but they're having a war with this guy, Burl G. I don't know what Burl G said.
I was wondering what that debate is about.
I don't know what it's about, but I think it's too late for us to catch up. But there's some kind of crazy argument going on with the whole bootstrappers versus I mean, this is a very important debate. I think we're gonna have to figure this out on some level as a people, as far as getting on code. But I just feel like we just have two different extremes. Because even though I'm not crazy about the hardline Black radicals who have no tolerance for anyone trying to do anything entrepreneurial, these kind of fantasy bootstrappers, I think, are a problem too, like the Rock Nation brunch people. But here's my problem with the people who hate Black capitalism. Are you okay with Black people working for a white capitalist? Because that's kind of the weird thing that they seem to be okay with. And that's my same problem with the Killmonger. I'm okay with the white devil I know being supreme over me, but the Black person being supreme over me is a deal breaker, because I never see them tell people to quit their job for a white person. I never see them say, hey, quit your job at the store, quit your job at the Gap, quit your job at the supermarket. Because either way, you're working for a capitalist while you're waiting for the revolution to happen. Like, if one of you can show me a true opt-out of capitalism that you're doing, where you're not only not doing any Black entrepreneurship or Black capitalism, but you're not helping a white capitalist get rich, let me know how you're doing it and getting by. I want to know.
You know what? I'd actually be interested in hearing that, because I think a lot of us want more options. And if you have the secret to these options,
let me know.
Yeah, let us know. And we could actually talk about it more, because and real shit, I am always looking for more solutions, more ideas, and more strategies. I don't think we're going to agree on all the strategies. We're not going to agree on all the methods. I'm definitely not going to agree on all the ideas, but I am a strong believer that having the conversation does create the strategy that can be helpful, but we have to get them out there. So if you have information that can support what you're saying, that would be helpful. If you have information to show us how to make shit pop without having to give white folk our money or not having to make white folk no money. Show me how to do that.
Exactly, because maybe it's a lack of imagination on our part, and maybe some people have ideas. So that's the email, champagnesharks@gmail.com. We'll read some of them on the air. Yeah. So for people who are saying, black people don't do capitalism, shit on the black water company. If you have a way for the black person to not work for a white water company either, or not work for a white capitalist and make the white capitalist rich, I'm with that, as long as it's across the board. Same with I keep going back to this example. Same with the Killmonger thing. I wouldn't have minded them stopping Killmonger if after they killed Killmonger, they went and killed the white supremacists and the CIA too. I just hate when people stop at the black practitioner. That's my thing. If you've got a way to really do across the board, opting out of capitalism for black people, where they're not being capitalists and being entrepreneurs and adding to the problem that way, but they're also not adding to the problem by making a white capitalist rich and working for him. I want to hear it, and please email it to us for sure.
Yeah, and also I'm on Twitter, so if y'all maybe you're not a big email writer, hit us up on Twitter. We have Champagne Sharks Twitter account. You got me, Lifestar Media. You got T. What's your Twitter?
Ricky Rawls.
Ricky Rawls. You know what's funny? I did not know. I got confused one time when you started using the Champagne Sharks Twitter and you were tweeting me, and I was like, how the fuck this nigga don't know me? And then it turned out you was like, oh, you probably don't recognize the account. I was like, why the fuck would I recognize this account?
Yeah, I swapped them around because I was trying to get a lot of followers for the podcast account. And then Kenny made a great point. He said, you have a lot of followers on your personal account. Instead of just trying to make the podcast account match the numbers on the personal, just swap them. So I just did a swap, but it confused a lot of people. People were like, what the, So Rock the Mic says they don't tea, they just complaining. I want to have faith in people. Maybe they do have the solutions.
Let's not. I don't want to be negative. I actually want to know. And if you don't have the solution, I'd definitely be down to hear some ideas about ways that we could, make shit pop. And the more realistic, the better. Things that require everyone to have to do the same thing is not going to be realistic. Like, nigga, I'm not planting vegetables. Like, that's not happening. But if you have a system where somebody else can plant vegetables and I can get a job running my mouth again, then, I'm down. But other than that, let's be realistic. Everybody ain't going to be doctors. Everybody ain't going to be entrepreneurs. Everybody, let's keep it real.
And also things with practical steps. I don't just say we'll all own the property communally. I'm with that, but what are the legal steps to own it communally? Yeah. How does that happen? Yeah, because we were talking about that before about I want tangible steps to things.
It's like when I was a kid and you had these old black dudes that always be in the community trying to tell you how to get rich, and it's always about, you got to get out there, you got to own some property, you got to get
how do you get the property?
Always the nigga that don't own no property. That's
the person that says all you gotta do is just get wait, who are those people that are saying for the $1,200 a month? Like $1,200 a month, and you didn't open a business, from the what's it called, the stimulus check. You got two $1,200 payments. You didn't open a business. Like, what business can I open for $2,400 while paying my bills while unemployed?
People just be saying shit because the rent in LA is like $2,400. So people just. Bro G says, how can we build communities when we can't build families? Cart before horse. What does that mean? What does that mean? We can't build families. What does that mean? I really want to know what that means. Also, when you talk about cart before horse, what would be the carts that we should be looking at? So family's one of them. What would be another thing we should be looking at? Because the other thing, I always hate people say that only because I feel like people think things can't happen simultaneously. Like, you can work on things around education and economics and trauma, and these things don't have to come one after the other. Because the reality is this, again, everyone's role in quote unquote the movement doesn't have to be the same. It isn't going to be the same. I'm no longer organizing, marching in the street. I stopped doing that shit a decade ago. I'm not doing that shit no more. That doesn't mean I don't support it. That doesn't mean I'm not down for it. My role is something different. My role is in media and education and providing access to information. The Black bootstrappers and Black liberals who just want a seat at the table have all the sway right now. I think it's good that the radicalism is coming up, even if it's not pragmatic. What sway do they have? What are you talking about?
I think he's saying that they're kind of taking up all the oxygen in the discourse, like in the discourse right now. If I'm wrong, Aaliyah's baby daddy, please correct me. But I think he's saying like right now, most of the discourse is about either bootstrappers or the liberals, like the blue checks telling you to vote for Biden and the voteps. And
so who are they playing?
I guess the public platforms. Actually, let me let Aaliyah's baby daddy answer for himself.
Yeah, because he just answered for somebody, and
I'm trying to. Like,
I don't know what you mean when you say have all the sway. So what does that mean? What are you talking about in that sense? Because are you saying they have the ability to sway Black people or sway white people in power? Who are they swaying?
In the meantime, UJ has a beef.
I do not get a response. You're lying. Don't lie. I got no response. Do me a favor. If you claim you replied. Oh, also to be fair, was I in Vegas? I might have been in Vegas. So maybe you're not lying. But do me a favor, message me or tweet me again, and I will not miss it. Please do, because I was trying to find you. And anybody else, follow me on Twitter.
Maybe that's the origin story for most of your incel stalkers. Maybe they had a similar story and you didn't nip it in the bud in time, and it festered, and that's how.
You know something funny? A lot of the guys I started checking now.
Yeah,
a lot of them are guys that follow me, but I don't follow them back.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I did pick up on that. So a lot of them are guys that follow me, and then until I went in on them, then they started blocking me and shit. But
I started checking myself to see if they follow us or the show, because you had me worried when you said that it didn't start until you got on the show. And so far, none of them, except for one, followed me, and then I blocked him. Yeah,
so maybe that was unfair. Maybe they really are just finding my account. I think what happens is they see me go in on divestors, and so they think that means I'm a safe space. They think I'm an actual pick me, and I'm not, and I don't play that shit. So don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't fuck with the coon shit. I don't give a fuck if you're a male or a female, or if you want some coon shit from a male perspective or a coon shit from a female perspective. That ain't me. So if you following me because you think I'm gonna go in on Black women all day, you got the wrong one. And I will call out bullshit when Black men do it too. So I'm not biased in the sense that I'm always going to be on one side. I have actual standards and beliefs and principles that I stand by. Go ahead.
That's why I want to have that guy who's an expert on like the Black manosphere and Black incels on, because I wanted to kind of, if we have any of those fans, like scare them off by having an episode or two about that stuff, because I think a lot of people do exactly what you said. They hear you talking about divestors and those types, and they think, oh, we got a live one, and they just think it's gonna be a free-for-all, just because a lot of people just don't like Black women, but they use the Black intersectionals or Black divestors as a convenient, easy target, but when you like talk to them more, you kind of realize like they just don't like Black women, like, period.
That's a big chunk of them, if we're being all the way honest.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that too, that I start following them, and then I'm like, wait a minute, you just saying some shit up. Like there was some of y'all probably follow them, because I saw a lot of people that I follow them. Black Men First Media or some shit. And he came in, he said something, he responded to some shit. I was going in on divestors, and he responded with some sexist shit. And then I responded to that shit, and then they ended up making all the debates go, see, you're protecting these men. Look what they think of you. I'm like, no, this nigga's a coon.
Yeah, exactly. And people like that, the same way I always say that those divestors and swirlers and those Black men are trash types. At the end of the day, they don't really like Black women that much either. Those type of guys don't really like Black men. Those people who bash Black women all day, if you talk to them enough, they'll have horrible stereotypes about Black men too. If you talk to them enough, they just hate Black women more. So yeah, I feel like those people at the end of the day, they're all coons in both directions. What's the guy's name? I just want to take a look. Black Media.
Black male first media, or black first media, some shit like that.
Oh, black male first. That's already a bad sign.
It's like some shit like that. He has like a red logo. I might have blocked him, so I probably can't find him.
Oh, it sounds familiar. There was a guy. Was it red and white? Is it?
Yeah, red, white, and black or some shit.
There was someone that I either muted or blocked for that. It sounds familiar. They're saying out of pocket stuff. The red thing sounds familiar. It's not a face or a picture. It's like a design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like black male first media or some shit like that. It was hella corny. And it was just like full of sexist. He's just a sexist who hates black women. That's no account I really love that
Yeah.
it's pro black men, but by proxy pro black women, and that is the Faithful Black Men's.
Oh, that site is so wholesome and funny. Like I feel
love that account.
Yeah. We should stream with them one day. Those guys are really funny. Those guys.
I love them. You know why I love them? Because I love that it's genuinely pro black men, and it's not about bashing black women.
Yeah.
And it's also not about shaming black men. It's literally about uplifting them.
And they're very funny. They're very tongue in cheek. Have you ever seen like when women get mad at them? Like someone would be like, "You're saying black men," like they get like really upset, and it's like it's just fun.
It's like the most wholesome page ever.
Yeah, it's just like having fun. Like you can really see how humorless some people are. But hold on, Jose P wants a shout out. Okay, hey Jose P.
Hey Jose,
there's your shout out, man. There you go.
I don't know who Jose P is.
I don't know either, man. But I mean, he wanted that shout out. He asked for it twice.
Well, you know what, Jose? We appreciate you for being a listener. Make sure that hopefully you've already subscribed, and if you want to, super chat us.
Oh yeah.
Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to opt out of capitalism and you want to forcibly opt us out by not subscribe. I mean, hitting the Patreon or the super chat, but by all means,
but shit, they're free to run, like, like shit.
Yeah. Don't forcibly opt us out of capitalism. Please opt us in by donating. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty tired. I'm done for the night. I'm
about to go grab dinner, so it's my last day of cheat day. Woo!
What's that? Last day of what?
Of my food cheat day, because I eat really strictly very healthy, like extremely healthy. But my mother's birthday weekend in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
I was enjoying myself. So today is the last day. I'm allowing myself to eat bad because tomorrow I'm back.
That's important because I turned a cheat day into a cheat half a year from COVID. Like from February, I've been on a cheat 6 months. I'm finally getting back on track now, but I've gained like about 25 pounds during quarantine. Wow. Yeah.
I gained initially because I was cheating. I had an extended cheat day, right? My cheat day my cheats usually don't last longer than a week. Every once in a while, maybe go 2 weeks. But this time, like quarantine time, was like a 3-week cheat, and I felt so disgusting. So I switched to doing a Whole30 diet. I guess I do a stricter version of that because I don't even eat potatoes. But it helped a lot because I felt a lot better. My skin got better, my body, energy, everything just felt healthier. So I knew I couldn't do it because the thing about Whole30, you have to cook everything from scratch. So because there's no chemicals or nothing. So
Ashley Kerma blew up my spot. Yeah, I did eat those 4 cookies in less than a minute.
Oh wow!
I was playing a video and I was eating cookies and stuff. yeah, but yeah,
we don't fuck with Biden. We don't give a fuck about that motherfucker. Fuck him.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've kept having this argument with people, and people keep telling me about how we gotta stop Trump because black people have the most to lose. And first off, the most to lose, come on, I keep asking them, what have black people specifically, not like being dragged down with someone else, like not like say attacking immigrants and then some of the immigrants are black, or attacking gays, some of the people are black, but what happened specifically to black people that makes you say black people have the most to lose compared to everyone else that they weren't already going through under Obama. And a lot of people kept getting mad at me online, but they couldn't give an example, and everything they kept saying was something that was across the board, collateral. Like the Democrats already have us on the bottom, alongside the.
I was about to say, what does that even mean when we're already suffering the most already?
Yeah.
Like, what, we have the most to lose? Yeah, we always have the most to lose. Like, that's just, whenever anything's across the board, we're gonna be. That's just how that's been. How is Biden gonna save us? That's where I get confused. What is me voting for Biden gonna do to stop this? Because I checked, we went through the same shit under Obama, went through the same shit under Clinton, went through the same shit under everybody else. I just be looking for this. When is this miracle time of America? I keep hearing like these Negroes we're talking about America. We gotta save America. When was America ever safe for you?
Biden won't even pretend to lie to us. Biden won't even like pretend like he's gonna give us something and then just not do it. Like he won't even give us.
He don't gotta promise you niggas shit.
Yeah. Like,
he knows it.
Yeah,
look,
at least
I can point that shit out, and niggas will still tell you he's right. They will get mad at you for saying it.
Yep.
He's right. It is. We should be voting for him regardless. I'm just like, you ain't gonna ask for nothing. Everybody could ask for something. You can't ask for shit.
I'm gonna vote down ballot. I'm gonna vote locally in my community, but I don't really have big plans as far as
Well, we're in safe states too, so it's not like it's that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
I don't know if I feel the same if I were in Ohio.
Yeah. very good point. Very good point. Everyone, have a good night.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you, Vita. It's always a pleasure.